I never thought the worst betrayal of my life would come through a forgotten phone call. When my daughter Caitlin called that September morning, her voice dripped with fake sweetness, but she forgot to hang up. What I heard next shattered my heart. My own flesh and blood plotting with her husband to dump me in a nursing home and steal my house for nearly $1 million. They called me a burden, a problem to solve. That's when I decided to show them what this burden was truly capable of. Before we dive into this story of betrayal and revenge, I invite you to stay with me until the very end. Comment below which city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel across our beautiful country. My name is Roy Anderson, and at 72 years old, I thought I had seen everything life could throw at me. Vietnam taught me about war. 40 years in construction taught me about hard work. Losing my wife Ellen to cancer 3 years ago taught me about grief. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what I discovered on that crisp Tuesday morning in September. I was sitting in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Ellen and I had shared 37 years of morning coffee, when my phone rang. The display showed Caitlin's face, the photo from her wedding 5 years ago, radiant in white lace, the daughter I'd given everything to make happy. "Hi, Dad." Her voice was unusually bright, almost forced. "How are you feeling today?" I should have known something was off. Caitlin hadn't called to check on me in weeks. Since Ellen passed, our relationship had become a series of obligatory holiday visits and birthday cards that arrived a day late. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I said, stirring sugar into my coffee. "Just having my morning coffee and reading the paper." "That's great, Dad. Listen, Jeremy and I were thinking maybe we could come by this weekend. We haven't seen you in a while, and we want to make sure you're okay." My heart warmed slightly. Maybe I'd been too harsh in my judgment. Maybe grief had made me paranoid, seeing distance where there was just busy lives. "I'd love that, Caitlin. Saturday works perfectly. I could make that pot roast you used to love." "Oh, Dad, you don't need to cook. We'll bring something. You just relax, okay? We have some things we want to discuss with you, important things about your future." The way she said future made something twist in my stomach, but I pushed the feeling aside. This was my daughter. The little girl I'd taught to ride a bike in the driveway, who'd cried on my shoulder after her first heartbreak, who danced on my feet at her wedding. "All right, sweetheart. I'll see you Saturday then." "Perfect. Love you, Dad." "Love you too, Kate." But she didn't hang up. I was about to end the call when I heard muffled voices. The phone must have slipped into her pocket or purse. I almost hung up myself, but then I heard Jeremy's voice, clear as day. "Did he buy it?" "Of course he bought it." Caitlin laughed. But it wasn't the warm laugh I remembered from her childhood. This was sharp calculating. "He's so lonely since Mom died, he'll jump at any attention we throw his way." I froze the coffee mug halfway to my lips. "Good," Jeremy continued. "The Sunshine Gardens facility has an opening next month. If we can get him to sign the papers this weekend, we can have him moved in by October." "And then the house is ours," Caitlin said, and I heard the smile in her voice. "I already talked to Patricia Brennan. You know, that realtor who sold the Morrison place. She says Dad's house could go for $890,000, maybe more if we stage it right. Can you imagine we could finally get that place in Cherry Creek we've been dreaming about?" My hand started shaking. Coffee sloshed over the rim of my mug, spreading across Ellen's favorite tablecloth, the one with the sunflowers she'd bought at a farmer's market in 1987. "What if he doesn't want to go?" Jeremy asked. "Your dad's pretty sharp for his age. He might fight us on this." "Oh, please," Caitlin scoffed. "We'll tell him it's for his own good, that we're worried about him being alone, that he needs professional care. If that doesn't work, we'll get Dr. Morrison to write something about cognitive decline. Dad's been forgetting things lately." "I have not." I whispered to my empty kitchen, my voice cracking. "And we can use that. Besides, what's he going to do? He's 72 years old. He depends on us. We're all he has left." "You're right," Jeremy agreed. "And honestly, it's better this way. That house is way too big for one old man. He's being selfish rattling around in there alone when we're cramped in our 2-bedroom rental." "Exactly. We're doing him a favor, really. Sunshine Gardens has activities, medical staff people his own age. He'll be happier there." "If he's not, that's not really our problem, is it?" Jeremy laughed. "Once we have power of attorney, We can sell the house, invest the money, and set ourselves up for life. Your dad's just sitting on a gold mine and he doesn't even appreciate it. The burden will finally be off our shoulders. Caitlin sighed dramatically. I'm so tired of feeling obligated to check on him, worried he's going to fall or have a heart attack alone in that house. This way someone else can deal with him. The burden. That's what I had become to my daughter. Not her father who worked double shifts to pay for her college. Not the man who walked her down the aisle with tears in his eyes. Not the grandfather to the children she hadn't even given me yet. Just a burden to be managed, a problem to be solved. An old man sitting on valuable real estate. Oh, I should probably hang up, Caitlin said suddenly. Don't want him to hear any of this. The line went dead. I sat there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes staring at the phone in my hand. The screen had gone dark, but I could still see my reflection in it, an old man with silver hair and deep lines around his eyes. When had I become so old? When had I become someone my own daughter could dismiss so easily? My mind raced back through the years, searching for signs I'd missed. Had Caitlin always been this calculating, or had Jeremy's influence changed her? I thought about her teenage years, how she'd thrown tantrums when she didn't get her way, how Ellen had always said I spoiled her too much. You're creating a monster, Roy. Ellen had warned me once after I'd bought Caitlin a car for her 16th birthday. A car she'd crashed within 3 months and expected me to replace immediately. But I'd always made excuses for her. She was young, she was stressed, she was just going through a phase. Even after she married Jeremy, a man who'd never held a job for more than 6 months and always had his hand out for loans he never repaid. I'd defended her choices. She's in love, I'd told Ellen. We have to support her. Now Ellen was gone, and I was alone with the truth. I had raised a daughter who saw me not as a father, but as an ATM machine with a convenient expiration date. I stood up, my knees creaking, a reminder that I was indeed getting older. But old didn't mean stupid. Old didn't mean helpless. And it certainly didn't mean I was going to roll over and let my daughter ship me off to some facility while she sold the house I'd built with my own hands. This house wasn't just property. Every wall held a memory. The kitchen where I stood still had the pencil marks on the doorframe where we'd measured Caitlin's height every birthday. The living room fireplace where Ellen and I had spent countless winter evenings. The back porch I'd added for Ellen's 40th birthday because she'd always wanted a place to watch the sunrise with her coffee. I walked through the rooms, seeing them with new eyes. In the hallway hung photos of our life together, Ellen and me on our wedding day. Caitlin's first day of school, family vacations to Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon. In every photo, I saw myself giving, providing, sacrificing. And for what? To be discarded like old furniture that no longer matched the decor. The master bedroom still smelled faintly of Ellen's perfume. White shoulders, the same scent she'd worn since our first date in 1975. Her reading glasses still sat on the nightstand, marking her place in a mystery novel she'd never finish. I'd changed nothing since she passed, unable to bear erasing these last traces of her presence. What would you do, Ellen? I asked the empty room. But I already knew the answer. Ellen had been sweet and kind, but she had a spine of steel when it came to justice. She would have been heartbroken by Caitlin's betrayal, but she wouldn't have stood for it. I went to my study, really just a converted bedroom, where I kept important papers and Ellen's genealogy research. The desk was cluttered with bills, medical statements from Ellen's final month's sympathy cards I still hadn't answered, but I knew exactly where to find what I needed. The deed to the house was in the fireproof safe, along with our wills insurance policies and the savings bonds we'd bought for Caitlin's education bonds we'd cashed in to pay for her dream wedding to Jeremy, a $40,000 affair that had nearly emptied our retirement savings. I spread the documents across the desk and studied them carefully. The house was in my name alone. We'd never added Caitlin despite her hints over the years that it would make things easier. The mortgage had been paid off 5 years ago after decades of careful budgeting and sacrifice. This house was mine, free and clear. But what about power of attorney? I found the document I'd signed after Ellen's diagnosis when the cancer had progressed and I'd needed help managing her medical decisions. But that was specifically for medical decisions regarding Ellen, and it had expired with her death. Caitlin had no legal authority over me or my property. The knowledge should have made me feel better, but instead it made everything worse. My daughter wasn't even smart enough to secure legal control before plotting to steal from me. She just assumed I'd go along with whatever she wanted the way I always had. I picked up the phone, then set it down. Who would I call? My brother Tom lived in Florida, and we barely spoke except for Christmas cards. Most of my friends from work had either moved away or passed on. Ellen had been my social connector. Without her, I'd become increasingly isolated. Maybe that's what Caitlin was counting on, that I'd be so desperate for attention, so grateful for any scrap of affection that I'd sign my life away without question. The anger that had been simmering suddenly boiled over. I swept the papers off the desk, watching them flutter to the floor like dying birds. But rage without action was just self-pity, and I'd be damned if I'd sit here feeling sorry for myself while my daughter and her worthless husband plotted my disposal. I bent down, gathering the papers, methodically forming a plan with each document I retrieved. If Caitlin wanted to play games with my future, I'd show her how the game was really played. First, I needed information. I opened my laptop, a gift from Caitlin 2 Christmases ago, which now felt like a spy device in my own home. I searched for Sunshine Gardens, the facility they'd mentioned. The website showed smiling seniors playing cards and doing water aerobics, but the reviews told a different story. Understaffed, overpriced, residents left alone for hours, families complaining about neglect and unexplained injuries. One review particularly chilled me. They warehouse people here to die. My father went from walking and talking to bedridden and non-responsive in 3 months. This was where my daughter wanted to send me. This was her idea of taking care of her father. I closed the laptop and made a decision. But I couldn't act rashly. I needed to be smart, methodical. I had 4 days until Saturday, 4 days to prepare for a visit that Caitlin and Jeremy thought would be their victory lap, but would instead be their reckoning. That evening, as the sun set behind the Rocky Mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that Ellen would have loved, I sat on the back porch with a glass of bourbon, the good stuff I'd been saving for a special occasion, though I couldn't imagine an occasion more special than planning your own resurrection from the dead. Because that's what I was to Caitlin, wasn't I? Already dead. Just inconveniently still breathing. I thought about the Roy Anderson who'd existed before that phone call. He'd been a grieving widower going through the motions, waiting for his daughter's visits to break the monotony of his days. He'd been ready to fade away quietly, perhaps even grateful for whatever attention Caitlin threw his way. But that Roy Anderson had died the moment I heard my daughter call me a burden. In his place sat someone harder, someone who'd survived war and loss and would sure as hell survive this betrayal. Wednesday morning came with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt since Ellen's death. I showered, shaved, put on my best suit, the one I'd worn to Ellen's funeral, and drove downtown to the law offices of Brennan Hayes and Associates. Not the Brennan that Caitlin had mentioned, the realtor, but her brother Marcus Brennan, who'd handled Ellen's and my wills for 20 years. Marcus greeted me warmly, though his eyes showed concern. "Roy, good to see you. How are you holding up?" "I need your help, Marcus," I said, cutting through the pleasantries. "I need to know my options regarding my property and my daughter." Marcus leaned back in his leather chair, his fingers steepled. "Has something happened?" I told him everything, watching his expression shift from professional interest to personal outrage. Marcus had daughters of his own, and I could see him imagining himself in my position. "First, Chab," he said when I'd finished, "I'm sorry, Roy. No parent should have to hear what you heard. Second, you're in a stronger position than Caitlin realizes. The house is yours free and clear. Without power of attorney or proof of incompetence, she can't force you to do anything. What if she tries to have me declared incompetent? Then we fight it. You're clearly of sound mind. I'm witnessing that right now. If you want, I can recommend a geriatric psychiatrist who can perform a cognitive evaluation just to have documentation on file." "Do it," I said. "What else?" "Well, you have options. You could confront her, try to work things out." "No." "You could change your will, remove her as beneficiary." "Already planning on it." "Or," Marcus leaned forward, a slight smile playing at his lips, "you could take more drastic action. The house is yours. You could sell it, liquidate everything, and do whatever you want with the proceeds." "How quickly?" "With the right buyer, could be done in a week, maybe less. The market's hot right now, and your neighborhood is highly desirable. But Roy, are you sure you want to?" "I'm sure." I said, "Give me the name of the best realtor in Denver, not Patricia Brennan." "Sandra Chen," he said without hesitation. "She's brilliant, discreet, and she specializes in quick sales. I'll call her myself if you'd like." "Do it." As I left Marcus's office, I felt like a soldier preparing for battle. The enemy had revealed their position, thinking I was too weak to fight back. They were about to learn differently. Sandra Chen met me at the house that afternoon. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind, walking through my home with the efficiency of someone who knew exactly what buyers wanted. "Mr. Anderson, your home is in excellent condition. Original hardwood floors, updated kitchen mountain views from the master bedroom. In this market, I could have buyers in a bidding war within 48 hours. I need it sold before Saturday. Cash offer, quick closing." She raised an eyebrow but didn't question it. "That's aggressive, but doable. I have international investors always looking for Denver properties. Cash purchases, no financing delays. But Mr. Anderson, are you sure this is a big decision?" "My wife died in this house," I said quietly. "My daughter wants to put me in a home and take it. Which would you choose?" "I'd burn it down before I let them have it," she said with a steel in her voice that I appreciated. "But selling it for maximum profit is much more satisfying. I'll have photographers here tomorrow morning. We'll list Thursday showings Friday, and I guarantee you'll have multiple offers by Friday evening." "What about my belongings?" "I work with a company that can pack and store everything within 24 hours. Where will you be moving?" I hadn't thought that far ahead. "I'll figure that out. Just get me the best price possible." "Mr. Anderson," she smiled. "That's what I do." Thursday was a whirlwind. Photographers arrived at dawn, capturing the house in the golden morning light that made everything glow. By noon, the listing was live, and Sandra reported that her phone was already ringing. The moving company arrived that afternoon, packing my life into boxes with remarkable efficiency. I kept only essentials clothes, important papers, photos of Ellen, and better times with Caitlin. "Where should we deliver these, sir?" the foreman asked. "Storage unit for now," I said, signing the paperwork. "I'll figure out the rest later." Thursday night, I stayed in the house one last time, sleeping on an air mattress in the empty bedroom where Ellen and I had shared so many nights. The house felt different without our furniture, our photos, our life filling it. It was just walls and floors now, a shell ready for someone else's memories. But I wasn't sad. I was energized. Friday morning, Sandra called early. "Roy, I have 17 showing requests. 17. I've scheduled them throughout the day. You might want to be elsewhere." I spent the day at the Denver Public Library researching apartments investment strategies, and just for the satisfaction of it, the best retirement communities in the country. Places where I could choose to go, not be warehoused. Places with ocean views and golf courses, not understaffed facilities that smelled of disinfectant and despair. Sandra called at 6 p.m., her voice breathless with excitement. "Roy, you're not going to believe this. We have 5 offers, all cash, all above asking. The highest is $915,000. $915,000, I repeated, stunned. "A tech executive from California. He wants to close by next Friday. Can you be out by then?" "I can be out by tonight." "Then congratulations, Mr. Anderson. You just sold your house." I signed the papers that evening in Sandra's office, my hand steady despite the magnitude of what I was doing. With her commission and closing costs, I'd walk away with about $870,000. Not quite the $890,000. Caitlin had been counting on, but close enough to sting. I spent Friday night in a hotel downtown, ordering room service, and watching the city lights from my window. Tomorrow, Caitlin and Jeremy would arrive at the house, expecting to find a lonely old man ready to sign his life away. Instead, they'd find something else entirely. But I wasn't done yet. There was one more thing I needed to do, something that would let me see their faces when they realized what had happened. I'd ordered it online Thursday, paying extra for overnight delivery. A small wireless camera, the kind designed for home security, barely bigger than a quarter. Saturday morning, I drove to the house early while the neighborhood was still quiet. I still had my keys. The new owner wouldn't take possession until Friday. I installed the camera in the entryway, hidden among the light fixture angled perfectly to capture the front door and living room. It connected to an app on my phone, allowing me to watch the feed live from anywhere. Then I wrote the letter. Not a long one. I'd said everything I needed to say in my actions, but they deserve some explanation, if only to twist the knife a little deeper. Caitlin, I heard your phone call. Every word. I know about Sunshine Gardens. I know about your plans for my house. I know what you really think of me, that I'm just a burden to be managed, a problem to be solved. You were right about one thing. This house was worth a fortune. Was. It sold yesterday. The new owners take possession Friday. Your belongings from your old room are in storage unit number 47 at Denver Self-Storage on Colfax. The combination is your birthday. You should remember it, though you forgot mine the last 2 years. The money from the sale is in an account you'll never touch. It will go to charity when I die, to organizations that actually care for the elderly, not warehouse them. You wanted me gone. Now I am. You called me a burden. Now you're free. Don't try to find me. Don't call. Don't write. You made your choice when you decided I was worth less than the house I lived in. Now live with it, the man who used to be your father. I taped the letter to the front door, then drove away without looking back. I parked 3 blocks away in the lot of a Starbucks and opened the camera app on my phone. The image was clear, showing the empty entryway, the door still closed. I ordered a coffee and waited. They arrived at 11:47 a.m. I watched on my phone as their BMW pulled into the driveway, the BMW I'd co-signed for because Jeremy's credit was too bad to get a loan. Caitlin got out first, wearing the designer sunglasses I'd bought her last Christmas. Jeremy followed, checking his phone, probably calculating how much they'd make from the house sale. They walked to the front door and I saw Caitlin notice the letter. She pulled it off, her expression changing from confusion to concern as she read. Jeremy looked over her shoulder and I watched his mouth form the words, "What the fuck?" Caitlin tried her key. It didn't work. Sandra had changed the locks after the sale per my request. She tried again, jamming it in harder as if force could change reality. Then she started pounding on the door. "Dad! Dad! Open the door! This isn't funny!" Jeremy was reading the letter again, his face growing redder by the second. "He sold it! He can't do that! We had a plan!" "Shut up!" Caitlin snapped, and even through the camera I could see tears starting to form. "Dad, please let us in. We need to talk." She called my phone. I'd blocked her number. She tried the windows, cupping her hands to peer inside at the empty rooms. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She actually staggered backward. "It's empty," she whispered. "Everything's gone." "This is your fault," Jeremy exploded. "You said he'd never find out. You said he was too old and stupid to fight back." "Don't you dare blame this on me," Caitlin screamed back. "This was your idea, the nursing home, the power of attorney, all of it. My idea. You're the one who's been complaining about him for years. Oh, he's so needy. Oh, he calls too much. Oh, I wish he'd just die already so we could have the house." The last statement hung in the air between them like a toxic cloud. Even Jeremy seemed to realize he'd gone too far. Caitlin sank down on the front steps, the steps where she'd waited for the school bus, where she'd sat with her prom date for photos, where Ellen and I had watched her drive away after getting her license. Now she sat there again, but this time she was sobbing. "We're fucked," she said between sobs. "We're completely fucked. We gave notice on our apartment because we thought we'd be moving in here. We maxed out the credit cards furnishing a house we don't even own yet. We're broke, Jeremy. We're homeless, and we're broke." Jeremy kicked the door hard enough that I could hear the impact through the camera's microphone. "Your father is going to pay for this. I'll sue him for elder abuse, for theft, for what?" Caitlin laughed bitterly. "For selling his own house, for not letting us steal from him. Good luck with that." They sat there for another hour, alternating between rage and despair, making calls to lawyers who wouldn't take their case to me, who wouldn't answer to banks, who wouldn't extend their credit. Finally, as the afternoon sun began to fade, they got back in their BMW and drove away. I closed the camera app and finished my cold coffee. It was done. That evening, I moved into a furnished apartment in downtown Denver. It was smaller than my house, but it had everything I needed: a bedroom, a kitchen, a balcony with a view of the mountains. It was mine, paid for with my money chosen by me. No one could take it away. I unpacked the few things I'd kept, setting Ellen's photo on the nightstand where I could see her every morning. I did it, Ellen. I told her image. I stood up for myself. For us. As I settled into my new life, I thought about Caitlin and Jeremy. They'd have to figure things out now without my safety net, without the inheritance they'd been counting on. Maybe it would make them stronger, force them to work for what they wanted instead of waiting for me to die. Or maybe not. Maybe they'd blame me forever, tell people I was a cruel father who abandoned his daughter in her time of need. I found I didn't care. The opinion of strangers meant nothing, and Caitlin's opinion had ceased to matter the moment she called me a burden. I poured myself a glass of Ellen's favorite wine I'd saved one bottle from the house and stood on my balcony watching the lights of Denver spread out below me. Somewhere out there, my daughter was learning a harsh lesson about consequences. And somewhere else, a young family was probably already planning their future in the house I'd built, filling it with new love and new memories. The autumn air was crisp, carrying the promise of change. Leaves would fall, snow would come, and life would go on. But I wouldn't be anyone's burden. I wouldn't be warehoused or managed or tolerated. I was Roy Anderson, 72 years old, widowed but not broken, betrayed but not beaten, and I was free. The wine tasted sweeter that night than it had in years. Maybe because, for the first time since Ellen's death, I was drinking to celebrate rather than to forget. But as I stood on that balcony watching Denver's lights twinkle below my phone, began buzzing with texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Word travels fast in a family that had always been too good at gossip and too poor at keeping secrets. The first message came from Ellen's sister Margaret in Boston. Roy, Caitlin just called me hysterical. What's going on? This isn't like you. I deleted it without responding. Margaret had always taken Caitlin's side, spoiling her with expensive gifts we couldn't afford to match, telling Ellen we were too strict when we tried to teach our daughter the value of hard work. Then came a call from my brother Tom in Florida. I let it go to voicemail and listened to his message later. Roy, what the hell is happening? Caitlin says you sold the house and disappeared. Brother, I know she hurt you, but she's still your daughter. Call me back. Even Tom, who barely knew Caitlin, who saw her maybe once every 5 years, thought I should forgive and forget. Easy to say when it's not your child plotting to lock you away. By Sunday morning, my new apartment felt less like a sanctuary and more like a bunker under siege. The calls kept coming, each one another attempt to guilt me into reversing course. But there was no reverse gear on this decision. The house was sold, the papers were signed, and the bridge to my old life had been burned with surgical precision. I decided to venture out to explore this new neighborhood I'd chosen. The apartment was in Lodo, Denver's lower downtown, an area that had transformed from warehouses to trendy lofts and restaurants in the years since I'd last paid attention to anything beyond my own grief. Young professionals jogged past with their dogs. Couples sat at sidewalk cafes, drinking overpriced coffee, and life moved at a pace that felt foreign after 3 years of stillness in that empty house. I found myself at a small bookstore, the kind Ellen would have loved, with creaking wooden floors and cats sleeping in the window displays. The owner, a woman about my age with silver hair pulled back in a braid, looked up from her reading and smiled. "Can I help you find something? Just browsing?" I said, running my fingers along the spines of hardcovers, feeling their weight and promise. "Starting a new chapter, you might say." She laughed, a warm sound that reminded me of Ellen's laugh before the cancer stole it away. Well, new chapters are our specialty, fiction or nonfiction. These days, I can't tell the difference. We talked for an hour about books about Denver's changing landscape, about everything except why a 72-year-old man was starting over in a furnished apartment with nothing but bitter satisfaction for company. Her name was Grace, and she'd owned the bookstore for 20 years, ever since her divorce. "Best decision I ever made," she said, choosing myself over comfortable misery. I bought 3 books I didn't need and left with something I hadn't expected: the possibility that this new life might be more than just an escape from the old one. Monday morning arrived with a registered letter slipped under my apartment door. The building's concierge must have signed for it. Jeremy's handwriting was on the envelope, angry slashes of ink that conveyed his rage before I even opened it. "Roy." It began not "Dad" or even "Mr. Anderson," just "Roy," like I was a stranger who'd wronged him. "Your actions have left us in an impossible situation. We were counting on that house to start our family, to build our future. Caitlin is devastated. She hasn't stopped crying since Saturday. You've destroyed your relationship with your only child over a misunderstanding. Whatever you think you heard, you're wrong. We were only trying to help you. Sunshine Gardens is a beautiful facility where you'd have been happy and cared for. Instead, you've chosen spite over family. We're consulting with attorneys about our options. You had no right to sell that house without consulting us. It was meant to be Caitlin's inheritance. You've stolen from your own daughter. We demand you reverse the sale immediately or put the proceeds in a trust for Caitlin. This is not over. Jeremy Patterson. I read it twice, marveling at the audacity. They'd planned to dump me in a cut-rate nursing home, sell my house, and use the money for themselves, and now I was the thief. The gaslighting was so obvious it was almost insulting. Did they really think I was that senile? I pulled out my laptop and began typing my own letter, not to mail, but to clarify my thoughts. Jeremy, you seem confused about several points of law and basic human decency. Let me clarify. The house was mine, bought and paid for with 40 years of my labor. An inheritance is what you receive when someone dies, not what you steal while they're still breathing. The only thing destroyed here is the illusion that my daughter loved me for more than my assets. I heard every word of that phone call, recorded it too, so please continue consulting attorneys. I'm sure they'll find it fascinating. As for Caitlin's tears, perhaps she's finally learning that actions have consequences. You wanted me gone. Congratulations. You got your wish. I never sent it. What would be the point? You can't reason with people who see you as nothing more than an obstacle to their desires. Instead, I did something more productive. I walked to Marcus Brennan's office and set up the charitable trust I'd mentioned in my letter to Caitlin. The majority of my estate would go to 3 organizations, a senior advocacy group that fought against elder abuse, a fund for elderly veterans who couldn't afford proper care, and a scholarship program for nursing students who specialized in geriatric care. The paperwork was ironclad, unbreakable, designed to withstand any legal challenge Caitlin and Jeremy might mount. "You're sure about this, Roy?" Marcus asked as I signed the documents. "Once this is done, it's very difficult to undo." "Good," I said, watching my signature dry on the paper. Some things shouldn't be undone. Tuesday brought an unexpected visitor. I was returning from my morning walk when I found someone waiting by my apartment door. For a moment, my heart stopped thinking Caitlin had found me, but it was Patricia Brennan, the realtor Caitlin had mentioned, Sandra Chen's competitor. "Mr. Anderson," she said, her smile sharp as a knife, "I heard about your recent sale. Congratulations, though I'm surprised you didn't give your daughter the chance to make an offer." "My daughter wasn't in a position to make an offer," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "No, but she had plans, big plans. She'd been talking to me for months about that house, about how she was going to renovate it, raise her children there, keep it in the family for generations." Patricia's eyes glittered with false sympathy. "Such a shame to see family treasures sold to strangers." "The only shame," I said, unlocking my door, "is that my daughter discussed selling my home while I was still living in it." "Good day, Ms. Brennan." "She's heartbroken, you know, absolutely devastated. All she wanted was to take care of you." I turned back to face her, and something in my expression made her take a step back. "No, Ms. Brennan, all she wanted was my house. There's a difference between caring for someone and disposing of them. Now, if you'll excuse me." I closed the door on her protests, but the encounter left me shaken. How many people had Caitlin told about her plans? How many vultures had been circling, waiting for her to deliver my carcass? That evening, I discovered I wasn't the only one Caitlin had been plotting against. My phone rang with a number I didn't recognize, but the voice was familiar. Ellen's mother, Dorothy, calling from her assisted living facility in Colorado Springs. "Roy, is that you?" Her voice was frail but clear. At 91, Dorothy had outlived her daughter, and we'd grown closer in our shared grief. "Hello, Dorothy. How are you?" "I'm confused, dear. Caitlin called me yesterday asking about my will, wanting to know if I'd changed anything recently. She seemed very upset when I told her I'd already arranged for everything to go to the Veterans Foundation in Ellen's memory. She said something about you stealing her inheritance and how she needed to protect what was left of the family assets." "Roy, what's going on?" My blood ran cold. "Dorothy, has Caitlin been asking you about this before?" "Oh yes, several times over the past few months. She even brought papers for me to sign, once said they were just to make things easier when the time came. I didn't sign them, of course. Ellen warned me years ago that Caitlin could be opportunistic. Ellen had known. Of course she had. She'd seen what I'd been too blind to acknowledge. Did Ellen say anything else about Caitlin? I asked. Dorothy was quiet for a moment. She worried Roy. She worried what would happen to you after she was gone. She made me promise to check on you to make sure Caitlin didn't, well, she used the word manipulate, but I think she meant something stronger. Why didn't she tell me? Oh, my dear boy, she tried. But you never wanted to hear anything negative about your little girl. Ellen loved you too much to force the issue, especially when she knew she was dying. She didn't want your last memories together to be arguments about Caitlin. After I hung up, I sat in the darkness of my apartment processing this revelation. Ellen had protected me, even in death, keeping her concerns quiet to preserve my relationship with our daughter. But that relationship had been an illusion, a one-sided fantasy, where I gave and Caitlin took. Wednesday morning, I had my appointment with Dr. Sarah Hoffman, the geriatric psychiatrist Marcus had recommended. Her office was warm and welcoming, nothing like the clinical sterility I'd expected. Mr. Anderson, I understand you want a cognitive evaluation for legal documentation. My daughter may try to have me declared incompetent, I said bluntly. I need proof that I'm not. She nodded, unsurprised. Unfortunately, that's more common than you'd think. Let's start with some basic assessments. For 2 hours, she tested my memory, my reasoning, my decision-making abilities. I answered questions, solved puzzles, recalled lists of words, and demonstrated my understanding of complex financial and legal concepts. It was exhausting but necessary. Mr. Anderson, she said when we finished, not only are you fully competent, but you're sharper than most people half your age. Your lawyer will have my full report by Friday, but I want you to know personally that there's absolutely no basis for anyone to challenge your mental capacity. Even if I sold my house and cut my daughter out of my will. She leaned forward, her expression serious. Mr. Anderson, protecting yourself from financial exploitation, even by family members, is actually a sign of good judgment, not poor cognition. The fact that you're taking legal precautions shows excellent executive functioning. As I left her office, I felt validated in a way I hadn't expected. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't senile, I was just a father who'd finally seen his daughter clearly. Thursday brought another surprise. Sandra Chen called with an unusual request. Roy the buyer wants to know if you'd be willing to meet with him. He's curious about the house's history, wants to hear some stories about it. Completely optional, of course. I agreed, curious myself about who'd be taking over the home Ellen and I had built. We met at a coffee shop near the house. James Liu was in his early 40s with kind eyes and an easy smile. He'd moved from San Francisco with his wife and 2 young daughters. Mr. Anderson, I want you to know we're going to take good care of your home. It's exactly what we've been looking for. Solid construction, great neighborhood, perfect for raising kids. Do you have family here? I asked. My wife's parents live in Littleton. They're getting older and we wanted to be close enough to help, but not so close that boundaries get blurred. He laughed, then grew serious. I hope you don't mind me asking, but the realtor mentioned you were downsizing quickly. Family situation. You could say that. My daughter had plans for the house that didn't include me living in it. James nodded slowly. My older brother tried something similar with our parents' place in Beijing. Thought they were too old to need such a big house. Wanted them to sign it over and move in with him. They sold it instead, bought a nice apartment near the beach in Hainan. Haven't spoken to him since. Any regrets? I asked. My parents, none. They video call us every week, travel, take Tai Chi classes. They're happier than they've been in years. My brother, he's still angry, still thinks he was robbed of what was rightfully his. He shook his head. Entitlement is a poison, Mr. Anderson. It kills gratitude and breeds resentment. We talked for another hour. I told him about the pencil marks on the kitchen door frame, about Ellen's rose garden in the backyard, about the basement workshop, where I'd built Caitlin's dollhouse 25 years ago. He listened with genuine interest, taking notes, asking questions. My daughters would love to hear these stories, he said. Would you? Would you consider visiting sometime? After we move in, I know it might be painful, but I'd like that. I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. The house deserves a family that appreciates it. As we parted, James shook my hand warmly. Mr. Anderson, I'm sorry about your daughter, but I want you to know that your home is going to be filled with love and laughter again. That's a promise. Driving back to my apartment, I realized something important. I wasn't just ending one chapter, I was making space for new ones to begin, even if I wouldn't be the one writing them. Friday, closing day. The money transferred into my account with a series of numbers that seemed surreal. $870,000. Not quite $1 million, but more money than I'd ever had at one time. It should have felt like victory, but mostly it felt like freedom. That evening, someone knocked on my apartment door. Through the peephole, I saw a process server looking bored and impatient. I opened the door and accepted the papers without comment. Caitlin was suing me. The lawsuit alleged elder abuse, undue influence, breach of fiduciary duty, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. She was seeking the full value of the house plus damages. Jeremy had found a lawyer willing to take the case, probably on contingency, hoping for a settlement. I called Marcus immediately. I expected this, he said calmly. Don't worry, Roy. Their case is built on smoke and wishes. You were fully competent, the house was solely in your name, and you had every right to sell it. They're hoping you'll settle to avoid the hassle. Not a chance. Good. I'll file our response Monday. In the meantime, document everything. Save every text, every email, every voicemail. We're going to bury them in their own words. Saturday marked 1 week since the confrontation at the house. I celebrated by visiting Grace's bookstore again. She was hosting a book club discussing a novel about second chances. I sat in the back listening to strangers share their thoughts about reinvention and redemption. The protagonist had to lose everything to find himself, one woman said. Sometimes destruction is just another word for opportunity. Grace caught my eye and smiled. After the group dispersed, she approached me. You look lighter than last week, she observed. Amazing what cutting dead weight can do, I replied. Family, she guessed. Former family. She nodded knowingly. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The family we choose often matters more than the family we're born into. Ellen used to say something similar. Your wife, late wife, 3 years now. I'm sorry, was she part of the dead weight? No, I said firmly. She was the only one who wasn't. I just couldn't see it while she was alive. Grace poured 2 cups of tea from a pot behind the counter, handing me one without asking. You know what I've learned in 20 years of running this place? People reveal themselves through their actions, not their words. And when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Maya Angelou, I recognized the quote. Smart woman, your Ellen sounds like she was one too. She was. She protected me even when I didn't know I needed protecting. We sat in comfortable silence, sipping tea and watching the sunset paint the store windows gold. It was the first time since Ellen's death that silence didn't feel like loneliness. Sunday brought another family ambush. This time it was Tom, my brother, standing in my apartment building's lobby. The concierge looked apologetic as I approached. He said he was your brother, Mr. Anderson. I didn't want to let him up without your permission. It's fine, Martin. Thank you for checking. Tom looked older than his 68 years Florida son, having turned his skin to leather. We hadn't seen each other since Ellen's funeral. Roy, what the hell are you doing? Hello to you too, Tom. Would you like to come up? In my apartment? Tom paced like a caged animal while I calmly made coffee. Caitlin called me crying. She says you've lost your mind, that you sold the house out from under her, that you're giving everything to charity. Roy, this isn't you. How would you know what is or isn't me? I asked. When's the last time we really talked, Tom? Not just Christmas cards and funeral appearances, but really talked. He had the grace to look ashamed. That's not fair. Isn't it? You know nothing about my life, about what Caitlin's really like, about what I've been through since Ellen died. But one phone call from my manipulative daughter, and you're here to set me straight. She's family Roy. So was Ellen. Didn't stop Caitlin from planning her grave robbery while she was still warm in the ground. I told him everything, then including the phone call, the planned nursing home, Dorothy's revelation about Caitlin pressuring her. Tom's expression shifted from skepticism to disgust. Jesus, Roy, I had no idea. No one did. I made sure of that, always making excuses for her, always enabling her. Ellen tried to warn me, but I wouldn't listen. Now I'm paying the price. What are you going to do? Live. For the first time in 3 years, I'm going to live, not wait to die, not exist in someone else's margins, but actually live. Tom stayed for dinner, and we talked like we hadn't in decades. About Vietnam, about the choices we'd made, about the time we'd lost. When he left, he hugged me for the first time since we were children. I'm sorry, Roy, for not being there, for judging you for everything. We're not dead yet, I said. Still time to do better. Monday's mail brought a letter from Caitlin, handwritten, trying a different approach. Daddy, I know you're hurt. I know you think you heard something terrible, but you misunderstood. Jeremy and I were role-playing, practicing for a play at the community theater. It was about elder abuse, and we were rehearsing our parts. We never meant any of those things about you. Please, Daddy, let me explain in person. I miss you. I love you. Your actions are tearing this family apart. Please don't let a misunderstanding destroy us. Love always, your Caitlin. The lie was so absurd I actually laughed. A play at the community theater. That was the best she could come up with. I filed the letter with the rest of the evidence for Marcus. Tuesday afternoon, I met with a financial advisor Marcus had recommended. We discussed investment strategies, living trusts, and long-term care insurance. The real kind, not the warehousing Caitlin had planned. With your assets properly invested, Mr. Anderson, you can live comfortably for another 30 years and still leave a substantial charitable legacy. 30 years, I'll be over 100. My grandmother lived to 103. She smiled. Spite is a powerful motivator for longevity. Wednesday brought an unexpected ally. A woman named Cheryl Matthews called, identifying herself as a nurse at Sunshine Gardens. Mr. Anderson, I probably shouldn't be calling you, but I couldn't stay quiet. Your daughter and son-in-law toured our facility last month. They asked specifically about our lockdown unit, the one for severe dementia patients. They wanted to know how quickly someone could be admitted and what would happen to their assets. Why are you telling me this? Because I've seen too many seniors dumped here by families who just want their money. I heard through the grapevine what you did selling your house before they could steal it. Good for you. More people should fight back. Would you be willing to testify to this in court? Absolutely. I'm quitting anyway. This place is a nightmare. I gave her Marcus's number, another nail in Caitlin's legal coffin. Thursday was Thanksgiving, a holiday I'd been dreading, but Grace had invited me to her bookstore's Orphan Thanksgiving, a potluck for people without traditional family gatherings. The store was full of strangers who felt less strange than my own blood. I brought Ellen's green bean casserole, the one dish I'd mastered in 40 years of marriage. People complimented it, asked for the recipe, made me feel welcome in a way Caitlin hadn't in years. Family isn't always blood, Grace said, echoing our earlier conversation. Sometimes it's just people who show up. That night back in my apartment, I found myself talking to Ellen's photo again. I did it, Ellen. I cut her off. I know you worried about this, about what she'd do when you were gone. I should have listened, but I'm listening now. I'm protecting myself the way you tried to protect me. I hope you understand. The photo, of course, said nothing. But I imagined Ellen's smile, the one she wore when she was proud of me for doing something difficult but necessary. Friday brought movement in the legal case. Marcus called with good news. Their lawyer is already backing off. Once he saw our evidence, especially the nurse's testimony and the recording you made of that phone call, he realized they have no case. He's advising them to drop the lawsuit. Will they? Jeremy might. He's practical, if nothing else. Caitlin, she's taking this personally. She might push forward just to punish you. Let her. I've got nothing but time and money to fight with. That evening, I attended my first grief support group since Ellen's death. I'd avoided them before, not wanting to share my pain with strangers. But now, strangers felt safer than family. I lost my wife 3 years ago, I told the group. But this week, I lost my daughter too. Not to death, but to greed. In some ways, it's worse. Death doesn't betray you. The group listened without judgment, sharing their own stories of complicated grief, of losing people who were still alive. I wasn't alone in my experience of family betrayal in the wake of loss. As the week drew to a close, I reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. The house was gone, but the burden of maintaining it was gone too. Caitlin was gone, but so was the illusion that she loved me. The life I'd known was over, but maybe that life had ended with Ellen anyway, and I'd just been slow to realize it. My phone rang late Friday night. Caitlin's number appeared, but I'd unblocked it to gather evidence. I answered, but said nothing. "Dad." Her voice was small, defeated. "Dad, I know you're there. I know you hate me. Maybe you should. I messed up. Jeremy left me. He says, without the house, without your money, I'm not worth the trouble. He was using me to get to you, and I was too stupid to see it. I've lost everything, Dad. My husband, my home, my father. I don't know what to do." I wanted to feel sympathy. Some part of me, the father who'd loved her unconditionally for 40 years, wanted to rush to her rescue. But that father had died the moment she called me a burden. "Caitlin," I said finally, "you haven't lost everything. You've lost everything you tried to steal. There's a difference." "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry." "No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry there were consequences. But you're not sorry for planning to warehouse me like unwanted furniture. You're not sorry for plotting with Jeremy while your mother's memory was still fresh in that house. What do you want me to say? Nothing. There's nothing you can say. You made your choice when you decided I was worth less than property. Now live with it." I hung up and blocked her number again. It was the last time we'd speak. As November turned to December, my new life began to take shape. I volunteered at the Veterans Center teaching woodworking to younger vets dealing with PTSD. I joined Grace's book club, officially finding friendship in unexpected places. I even started dating something I'd never imagined doing again. Her name was Maria, a widow I'd met at grief counseling. She understood loss without trying to fix it, understood that moving forward didn't mean forgetting the past. We took things slow, having coffee, attending concerts, rebuilding our capacity for joy, carefully, like physical therapy for the soul. The lawsuit was officially dropped in early December. Caitlin's lawyer withdrew, citing irreconcilable differences with his client. Marcus heard through the legal grapevine that Caitlin had demanded he pursue the case even after he'd advised her to drop it, and he'd refused to continue what he knew was a losing battle. James Liu sent me photos of the house decorated for Christmas. His daughters had drawn pictures to hang where our family photos once were. The pencil marks on the doorframe now had new additions marking the growth of a new generation. It should have hurt, but instead it felt like the house was alive again, filled with the kind of love it deserved. Christmas was approaching, and for the first time since Ellen's death, I didn't dread it. Maria and I had plans to volunteer at the Denver Rescue Mission on Christmas Eve, then have a quiet dinner at her place. But the peace I'd found was about to be tested in ways I hadn't anticipated. It started with a call from Child Protective Services on December 15th. The social worker, a tired-sounding woman named Janet Reeves, explained that Caitlin had been arrested for check fraud and identity theft. She'd been writing bad checks using my closed accounts and had attempted to take out credit cards in my name. "Mr. Anderson, we need to discuss the situation with your grandchildren." "I don't have grandchildren," I said, confused. "Sir, your daughter has 2 children. Emma age 4 and Ryan age 2. She listed you as next of kin." The floor seemed to shift beneath my feet. "That's impossible. Caitlin doesn't have children. I would know if I had grandchildren." "Sir, I have their birth certificates here. Emma was born in June 2021, Ryan in September 2023. The father is listed as Jeremy Patterson." I sank into my chair, the phone heavy in my hand. While I'd been grieving Ellen, while Caitlin had been plotting to steal my house, she'd had children. 2 children she'd never told me about, never brought to meet me, never even mentioned in passing. "Where are they now?" I managed to ask. "They're in emergency foster care. Mr. Patterson has relinquished his parental rights and left the state. Your daughter is being held pending bail. Mr. Anderson, these children need family. Are you willing to take them?" I thought about saying no. I was 72 years old, starting a new life, finally free from the burdens of family betrayal. These children were strangers to me, kept hidden for reasons I could only imagine. But then I thought about Ellen, about what she would say about innocent children paying for their parents' sins. I need to see them first, I said, and I need to talk to my lawyer. Marcus was as shocked as I was. She hid 2 children from you, Roy. That's beyond cruel. That's pathological. What are my options? You can refuse. You're under no legal obligation to take them. They'll stay in foster care, possibly be adopted if Caitlin's parental rights are terminated. Or you can take temporary custody while the courts sort this out. But Roy, think carefully. Taking on 2 young children at your age, children who don't even know you exist, that's a massive undertaking. I met them that afternoon at the CPS office. Emma had Caitlin's eyes, but Ellen's chin a combination that made my heart ache. She was clutching a stuffed rabbit worn and loved, watching me with suspicious eyes. Ryan was in a social worker's arms, thumb in his mouth, too young to understand why his world had imploded. Emma, Janet said gently, this is your grandfather, your mommy's daddy. Mommy said we don't have a grandpa. Emma said, her voice small but clear. She said he went away to heaven with Grandma. Another lie. Caitlin had killed me off in her children's minds before they even knew me. I'm very much alive, I said, keeping my voice soft, and I'm here to help. Are you going to take us home? Emma asked. Would you like that? She looked at Ryan, then back at me, her 4-year-old face far too serious. Mommy's in jail. Daddy left. The foster lady smells like cigarettes and yells a lot. You don't smell like cigarettes. No, I don't. I smell like coffee and wood shavings, according to my friend Maria. That got a tiny smile. I like coffee smell. Mommy used to let me smell her coffee before everything got bad. When did everything get bad, sweetheart? When Daddy said we were supposed to get a big house, but then he got really mad and threw things and left. Mommy cried a lot, and then the police came and took her away, and nobody would tell us anything. The timeline clicked into place. Jeremy had left after the house sale fell through, abandoning not just Caitlin, but 2 children I hadn't known existed. The man who'd called me a burden had walked away from his own burdens the moment things got difficult. I made my decision in that moment, looking at Emma's frightened eyes and Ryan's confusion. These children hadn't betrayed me. They hadn't plotted against me. They were innocent casualties of their parents' greed and my daughter's lies. Yes, I said. I'm going to take you home. The paperwork took 3 days. Background checks, home inspections, emergency custody hearings. My age was a concern, but Dr. Hoffman's cognitive evaluation worked in my favor, as did my financial stability and the sterling references from Grace Maria and surprisingly James Liu, who'd heard about the situation through Marcus. You're taking on a lot, Roy, the family court judge said during the hearing. 2 young children who don't know you, one of whom has developmental delays from neglect. Ryan, I'd learned, was behind on his milestones, barely speaking at 2 years old, a result of what the social worker delicately called inconsistent caregiving. Your Honor, I said, I spent 3 years thinking I had no purpose left after my wife died. My daughter tried to throw me away like garbage, but these children, they need someone who won't throw them away. I may be old, but I'm steady. I may be starting over, but I have resources, and I have more time than I ever thought I'd have to do better with them than I did with their mother. The judge granted me temporary custody with a review hearing in 6 months. I brought Emma and Ryan to my apartment on December 19th. It wasn't child-proofed or ready for young ones, but Grace and Maria had spent the previous day helping me prepare. We'd bought beds, toys, clothes, everything 2 small children might need to feel safe. Emma stood in the doorway, still clutching her rabbit, surveying the space with those 2 serious eyes. Is this our room? She asked, looking at the 2nd bedroom we'd hastily converted. If you want it to be, we can change anything you don't like. Mommy said you were mean, that you didn't love us. Your mommy was wrong about a lot of things. She lied a lot, Emma said matter-of-factly. She told Mrs. Chen next door that Daddy was on a business trip when he left. She told the landlord we were moving to a big house when we got evicted. She told us you were dead. The casual way she recited her mother's lies broke my heart. 4 years old and already wise to adult deceptions. Ryan, meanwhile, had toddled over to the window, pressing his palms against the glass, mesmerized by the city lights. He turned to me and said his first word in my presence, "Pretty." Yes, I agreed, picking him up so he could see better. Very pretty. He leaned against me, this grandson I'd never known existed, and I felt something shift in my chest. Not healing exactly, but maybe the possibility of it. The first few days were chaos. I knew nothing about modern child rearing. Car seats were more complicated than the control panels I'd operated in Vietnam. Children's nutrition had rules I'd never heard of. Bedtime was a negotiation I consistently lost. Maria saved me, arriving each morning with practical advice and endless patience. "You're not supposed to know everything immediately, Roy. Parents learn as they go." "I'm not their parent. I'm their grandfather, a grandfather they were told was dead." "You're their safe person now. That's what matters." Emma warmed to me, slowly testing boundaries, watching to see if I'd leave like everyone else had. She had nightmares about police taking her away, about being alone, about monsters that looked suspiciously like Jeremy in her descriptions. "Grandpa Roy," she said one night after a particularly bad dream, "are you going to sell us?" "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Daddy said Mommy sold her daddy for a house. But then we didn't get the house, and Daddy left, and Mommy went to jail." "Did you really get sold?" I sat on her bed, choosing my words carefully. "No, Emma. Nobody can sell people. Your mommy wanted my house, but I wouldn't give it to her because she wasn't being nice. Sometimes adults make bad choices, and those choices hurt people. Like when she forgot to pick us up from daycare and we had to sleep there." Another revelation, another failure I hadn't known about. "Yes, like that. But I promise you I will always pick you up. I will never sell you or leave you or forget you. You and Ryan are stuck with me." "Forever?" she asked skeptically. "For as long as I'm alive, which according to my doctor could be quite a while." Christmas Eve arrived with Denver covered in fresh snow. Maria and I took the children to the rescue mission as planned, but instead of serving, we brought them to the children's area where volunteers were distributing toys. Emma's eyes widened at the selection, but she held back. "It's okay," I told her. "You can choose something, but they're for kids who don't have anything." "Sweetheart, you've lost everything too. It's okay to accept help." She chose a art set practical even at 4. Ryan grabbed a stuffed dinosaur and wouldn't let go his first real attachment to anything besides Emma since arriving. That evening we had dinner at Maria's house. She decorated carefully, nothing too overwhelming, just enough magic to make the children smile. Her own grandchildren were there visiting from Texas, and they immediately absorbed Emma and Ryan into their games. Watching now Emma laugh, really laugh for the first time since I'd met her, I felt something I hadn't experienced since before Ellen's diagnosis, hope for the future. The call from jail came at midnight after the children were asleep. I'd unblocked the number specifically for this possibility. "Dad," Caitlin's voice was broken, defeated. "Dad, they told me you have my kids." "The kids you never told me about. The grandchildren you declared orphaned by telling them I was dead. I can explain." "No, no more explanations, no more lies. These children have been through enough." "They're my children." "Then why didn't you protect them? Why didn't you provide for them? Why didn't you tell me they existed when you were planning to steal my house? Were they part of the renovation plans, or were you going to hide them forever?" Silence, then sobbing. "I screwed up, Dad. I screwed up everything. Jeremy said kids would tie us down, make it harder to get the house. I thought once we had money, once we were stable, I could be a better mother. You thought stealing from me would make you a better mother. I thought you'd never know about any of it. The house, the kids, none of it. You were supposed to be happy at Sunshine Gardens, and we were supposed to finally have our lives together. Instead, you're in jail. Jeremy abandoned you, and your children are with a grandfather they were told was dead. How's that working out? Please, Dad, please don't take them from me." "I'm not taking them, Caitlin. You threw them away just like you tried to throw me away. The difference is I caught them before they hit the ground." I hung up and turned the phone off. Tomorrow would bring more complications, more legal battles, more decisions about the future. But tonight, 2 innocent children were sleeping safely in my apartment, believing for the first time in months that an adult would be there when they woke up. January brought structure to our chaos. Emma started at a new preschool, one recommended by Maria's daughter, who was a teacher. The first day she clung to me at drop-off. "You'll come back?" she asked for the 10th time. "I'll be here at 3 p. p.m. exactly. You can watch the clock. Mommy forgot sometimes. I'm not mommy. I keep my promises. And I did. Every day I was there at 3 every p.m. exactly, usually arriving 15 minutes early, just to be sure. By the third week, Emma stopped asking if I'd come back. She just knew I would. Ryan started speech therapy, his delays more significant than initially thought. The therapist, a patient woman named Beth, taught me exercises to do at home. He's catching up quickly, she assured me. He just needed consistency and attention. Consistency I could do. Attention I had in abundance. All the energy I'd once poured into grieving Ellen and enabling Caitlin now went to these children who bloomed under the slightest care. The call from Caitlin's public defender came in late January. She wanted to meet to discuss options. Your daughter is looking at 5 to 7 years, Mr. Anderson. The identity theft charges are federal, but if you were willing to speak on her behalf, perhaps about her mental state after her mother's death, we might get it reduced. Her mother died 3 years ago, I said. She's been stealing from me while planning to lock me away. I won't lie for her. What about the children? Don't they deserve to have their mother back? They deserve to have a mother who puts them first. Caitlin has never put anyone first but herself. The public defender sighed. You're probably right, but I had to ask. February brought Emma's 5th birthday. When I asked what she wanted, she looked at me with those serious eyes and said, "Promise you won't leave." I promise, but you still get a real present too. We had a small party at Grace's bookstore. She'd closed early decorating the children's section with balloons and streamers. Maria made a cake. James Lou brought his daughters, who'd become friends with Emma. Even Tom flew in from Florida, trying to be the great uncle he'd never had the chance to be before. Watching Emma blow out her candles surrounded by people who'd become family by choice rather than blood. I realized something. This life, the one I'd never planned, was fuller than anything I'd imagined when Caitlin was plotting to steal my house. The review hearing came in March. The judge reviewed the reports from the social workers, the therapist, the preschool. Emma testified in chambers, a conversation the judge later described as remarkably articulate for a 5-year-old. Mr. Anderson, the judge said, the children are thriving in your care. The department recommends continued custody with you. However, your daughter's lawyer has indicated she intends to seek reunification upon her release. When will that be? With good behavior, possibly 3 years. Are you prepared for that fight? Your Honor, I'm 72 years old. In 3 years, I'll be 75. But I'll still be here, still fighting for these children, still providing the stability their parents never gave them. Caitlin can seek whatever she wants, but she'll have to prove she's changed. Really changed, not just learned to lie better. The judge nodded. The court agrees. Custody remains with you, Mr. Anderson. We'll review again in 6 months. That night, tucking Emma into bed, she asked, Grandpa Roy, what happens when you get too old to take care of us? It was a fair question, one I'd asked myself repeatedly. Well, by then you'll be a teenager, probably taking care of me instead. But I've made plans, Emma. Legal plans with lawyers to make sure you and Ryan are always safe, always cared for, no matter what. Not mommy plans, right? Real plans. Real plans. I promise. She snuggled into her pillow. Mr. Bunny, we'd finally learned the rabbit's name tucked under her chin. Grandpa Roy. Yes, sweetheart. I'm glad Mommy lied about you being dead. Me too, Emma, me too. As spring arrived in Denver, bringing warmth and possibility, I found myself in a life I'd never imagined. Mornings started with getting Emma ready for school and Ryan ready for daycare. Days were filled with speech therapy, playground visits, and the endless energy of a 2-year-old who'd finally found his voice and wouldn't stop using it. Grandpa Bird, Big Bird, Ryan shouted at every pigeon we passed. Yes, buddy, that's a bird. Bird fly, Ryan, fly. No, Ryan doesn't fly. Ryan walks. Sometimes Ryan runs, usually when Grandpa says not to. He giggled, the sound still new enough to make my heart squeeze. Evenings were homework with Emma, who'd decided she wanted to learn everything about everything immediately. Why became her favorite word, each answer spawning 3 new questions. Grandpa Roy, why did Mommy lie about you? I think she was angry with me. Why? Because I wouldn't give her what she wanted. Why? Because what she wanted wasn't fair. Why did she want unfair things? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I think because I always gave her everything when she was young, she grew up thinking she deserved everything even when she got older. Will you give me everything? No. Good, Emma said, surprising me. Mrs. Patterson at school says kids who get everything become mean grown-ups. From the mouths of babes. Maria had essentially moved in by April, though we maintained the fiction of separate apartments. The children needed stability, not another upheaval, but her presence made everything easier. She had a gift with Ryan, especially endless patience for his developing speech. "Roy," she said one evening after the kids were asleep, "we need to talk about the future." "I know. I'm old. They're young. The math doesn't work." "The math works fine if we're smart about it. Marry me." I nearly dropped my coffee. "What? Marry me? It makes legal sense. I'd have rights regarding the children if something happens to you. We love each other. The kids love me. Why are we pretending otherwise? Maria, I'm 72. I'm 68. We're not dead yet. And frankly, raising these kids is easier with two people." She was right, of course. Ellen would have liked her, would have approved of this practical approach to an impractical situation. "Yes," I said. "Yes, let's get married." We married in May at the courthouse with Emma as flower girl and Ryan as ring bearer, though he mostly just ran in circles. Grace and Tom were our witnesses. It was simple, perfect, exactly what we needed. The letter from Caitlin arrived in June, forwarded through her lawyer. I considered throwing it away unread, but curiosity won. "Dad, I know you hate me. You have every right. I'm in therapy here, real therapy. Not the kind where you just say what they want to hear. I'm learning about myself, about why I became the person who could plot against her own father, hide her children, destroy everything good in her life. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I remember now, really remember who you were before I let greed poison me. You were a good father. You gave me everything, maybe too much, but always from love. I'm sorry I couldn't see that until it was too late. Please tell Emma and Ryan that Mommy loves them even if Mommy can't be with them. Tell them their grandfather is the best man I've ever known, and I was too stupid to see it. Don't let them become like me. Caitlin." I saved the letter not for me, but for Emma and Ryan. Someday, when they were older, they might want to understand their mother. Or maybe not. That would be their choice to make. July brought unexpected news. Dorothy Ellen's mother had passed peacefully in her sleep. She'd left her small estate to the Veterans Foundation as planned, but she'd also left something for me. Ellen's journals, decades of them, that she'd been keeping safe. I read them slowly a few pages each night after the children were asleep. Ellen's voice rose from the pages, all her fears about Caitlin, her love for me, her hope that I'd find happiness again after she was gone. One entry dated just a month before her diagnosis particularly struck me. "Roy will spoil Caitlin until the day he dies. It's who he is generous to a fault. I pray she doesn't take advantage of that when I'm gone. But knowing our daughter, she will. I hope he's strong enough to stand up to her when the time comes. He's the strongest man I know in every way but that one." "I did it, Ellen," I whispered to her photo. "Too late maybe, but I did it." August was back to school shopping, Emma starting kindergarten with an excitement that bordered on manic. She needed the perfect backpack, the perfect lunchbox, the perfect everything. "It has to be right, Grandpa Roy. Kindergarten is very important." "Who told you that?" "You did. You said learning is the most important thing." Maria laughed. "She's got your number, Roy." Ryan, now 3 and catching up rapidly with his speech, had opinions about everything. "No want Emma go school. Ryan goes school. Next year, buddy. This year you get Grandma Maria all to yourself." "Grandma Maria make cookies, Probably," Maria said, ruffling his hair. "If you're good." Ryan good, Ryan very good. The trajectory of our strange little family was upward each day, building on the last, creating something solid from the wreckage of betrayal and abandonment. September brought the 1-year anniversary of that phone call, the one that had changed everything. I stood in my old neighborhood, having driven there without really planning to, looking at the house I'd built with my own hands. James Lou was in the yard with his daughters, teaching them to ride bikes in the same driveway where I'd taught Caitlin. He saw me and waved me over. "Mr. Anderson, perfect timing. We're having a barbecue. Please join us." I hesitated, then accepted. The house looked different but happy, filled with the kind of chaos that comes from young children and love. Mrs. Lou welcomed me warmly, insisting I eat, insisting I tell stories about the house's history. "Did you build that treehouse?" their older daughter asked, pointing to the structure in the backyard I'd built for Caitlin when she was 7. "I did. It's awesome Dad's going to fix it up for us." "That's good. Treehouses need kids to love them." As I left, James walked me to my car. "How are you really?" "Better than I've been in years. I have 2 grandchildren living with me now. It's complicated but good. Life usually is. Complicated but good." Driving home to my real home to Maria and Emma and Ryan, I realized he was right. The simple life I'd imagined in that empty house after Ellen died had been a kind of death itself. This complicated life with its homework battles and speech therapy and endless questions and constant noise was actually living. October meant Halloween costumes. Emma wanted to be a scientist. Ryan wanted to be a dinosaur. They practiced trick-or-treating in the apartment, Emma coaching Ryan on the proper etiquette. "You say trick or treat, then thank you, then we move to the next door. Don't run into the house, don't grab more than one candy unless they say it's okay, and definitely don't roar at people." But Ryan dinosaur. Dinosaurs can be polite. The actual night was magical, watching them experience the simple joy of costumes and candy, of pretending and playing. Other kids joined our group as we walked through the neighborhood, their parents chatting with Maria and me like we were just another normal family, which I supposed we were. November brought another legal update. Caitlin had been sentenced to 4 years with possibility of parole in 2.5 with good behavior. Her lawyer wanted to discuss reunification planning. "No," I said simply. "When she gets out, she can petition the court like any other parent who's lost custody. Until then, these children need stability, not false hope." The lawyer persisted. "She's their mother. Biology doesn't make you a parent. Showing up does. Making lunch does. Reading bedtime stories does. Being there at 3 p.m. every single day does. She had her chance to be their mother. She chose being a thief instead." December arrived with snow and excitement. Emma had written a letter to Santa insisting Ryan add his own scribbles. "What did you ask for?" I inquired. "Can't tell you. It's between me and Santa." But I found the letter later left deliberately where I'd see it. "Dear Santa, please make sure Grandpa Roy and Grandma Maria stay healthy for a very long time. Emma and Ryan need them. That's all I want. Love, Emma. P.S. Ryan wants a toy truck, but he's too little to ride it." I had to sit down, overwhelmed by this child who'd seen too much but somehow remained good, kind, thoughtful. Despite her parents, not because of them. We spent Christmas Eve not at the rescue mission, but hosting dinner for our chosen family. Grace brought books for the children. Tom flew in again, this time with his wife, whom I'd barely known, but who threw herself into great-aunt duties with enthusiasm. Marcus and his wife came joking that they'd never seen me happier. Even James Lou stopped by with his family, the 2 sets of children playing together like they'd known each other forever. "This is what family looks like," Maria said, surveying the controlled chaos of our apartment. "Not perfect, not traditional, but real." As the evening wound down and we tucked exhausted children into bed, Emma mumbled sleepily, "Best Christmas ever, Grandpa Roy. Best Christmas ever, sweetheart." And it was. Not because of presents or decorations or any of the trappings I'd once thought mattered, but because I was surrounded by people who chose to be there raising children who needed me, living a life I'd never planned but wouldn't trade for anything. The new year arrived with Emma asking questions that cut deeper than any knife. She'd found a photo in my desk drawer while looking for crayons, one of Caitlin as a baby, in Ellen's arms, both of them glowing with the kind of joy that couldn't be faked. "Is this Mommy?" she asked, studying the image with those analytical eyes that missed nothing. "Yes, when she was very young. She looks happy. The lady holding her looks happy too. That's your grandmother Ellen. And yes, they were both very happy then." Emma traced her finger over Ellen's face.
What happened to make mommy stop being happy? How do you explain to a 5-year-old that happiness isn't something that just stops, but something that gets traded away piece by piece for things that glitter but have no warmth, that her mother had chosen the shimmer of easy money over the steady glow of family love? Sometimes people forget what really makes them happy, I said carefully.
They think they need big houses and lots of money, but what they really need is to love and be loved. Like how you love me and Ryan? Exactly like that. She put the photo back carefully, then climbed into my lap, something she rarely did anymore, already growing independent. Grandpa Roy, I won't forget what makes me happy. What makes you happy, sweetheart? You and Grandma Maria and Ryan and books, and when you let me help make pancakes, even though I make a mess. That's a good list. Mommy's list was probably wrong. The wisdom of children never ceased to amaze me. They saw through complications to the simple truths adults spent lifetimes avoiding. January brought a letter from Jeremy of all people. It was postmarked from Nevada, where he'd apparently landed after abandoning his family. The handwriting was sloppy, probably drunk. Old man heard you got stuck with my kids. Good luck with that. Emma's too smart for her own good, and Ryan's probably retarded. Caitlin always said there was something wrong with him. I'm not coming back for them, so don't worry about that. Got a new girlfriend here starting fresh. Those kids were just dragging me down anyway. Tell Caitlin I want a divorce if you talk to her. Jeremy. I burned the letter after reading it, watching the paper curl and blacken in the sink. Ryan wasn't retarded. He'd been neglected. Emma wasn't too smart for her own good. She was brilliant and observant. They weren't dragging anyone down. They were lifting our entire household up with their resilience and capacity for joy, despite everything they'd endured. The next morning, Ryan proved Jeremy wrong by reciting the entire alphabet at breakfast. Something he'd been working on with his speech therapist for weeks. A is for apple, B is for bear, C is for cat. He went through all 26 letters, getting stuck only on Q, which he insisted should be for queen, not quail, because queens were prettier than birds.
You did it, buddy. Maria cheered, scooping him up for a hug. You're so smart. Ryan's smart, he agreed happily. Not like Daddy said. My blood went cold. What did Daddy say, Ryan? Daddy said Ryan's stupid, but Ryan not stupid. Ryan's smart. Another knife to the heart, another wound these children carried that I hadn't known about. How many cruel words had they absorbed before coming to us? How many times had they been told they were burdens, problems, disappointments? You're absolutely right, I said firmly. Ryan is very, very smart and brave and kind, and we're lucky to have you. Lucky, lucky, Ryan sang, dancing around the kitchen. Grandpa, lucky. Grandma, lucky. Yes, we were. Despite everything, we were the lucky ones. February brought parent-teacher conferences. Emma's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, no relation to Jeremy, thankfully, was effusive in her praise. Mr. Anderson Emma is exceptional. Her reading level is 3rd grade. Her mathematics understanding is advanced, and her emotional intelligence is off the charts. But more importantly, she's kind. She helps other students shares without being asked, and stands up for kids who are being picked on. She's been through a lot, I said. I know, the social worker briefed me, which makes her resilience even more remarkable. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. She's thriving. Walking home, Emma held my hand, something she usually considered too babyish for a kindergartner. Mrs. Patterson says I'm doing good. You're doing amazing. She asked about my mom and dad. I told her my mom made bad choices and my dad ran away, but my grandpa and grandma chose to keep me. What did she say to that? She said choosing is more important than borning. Borning isn't a word, sweetheart. It should be. It means when someone borns you but doesn't take care of you. Choosing is when someone picks you and stays. We walked in silence for a bit. Then she added, I'm glad you're a chooser, not just a borner. Me too, Emma, me too. March rolled around with spring's promise and another review hearing. The judge was impressed with the progress reports. Ryan's speech was approaching age-appropriate levels. Emma was excelling in school. Both children were described as well-adjusted and thriving by every professional involved in their care. Mr. Anderson. Mrs. Anderson.
The judge addressed Maria and me. The court is satisfied with the children's placement. However, I must inform you that Ms. Patterson's lawyer has filed a motion for supervised visitation to begin upon her transfer to a minimum security facility next month. My stomach clenched. Visitation. 1 hour per month supervised by a social worker at the facility. It's her right as their biological mother unless we can prove it would be harmful to the children. It would be harmful, I insisted. They're finally stable, finally feeling secure. I understand your concerns, but the law favors maintaining some connection between parents and children, even incarcerated parents. However, the children will have a voice in this. Emma is old enough to express her preferences to a child psychologist. That night, I had to explain to Emma that her mother wanted to see her. She listened with that eerie calm she'd developed processing information like a computer analyzing data. "Do I have to go?" she asked. "The judge will ask you what you want. You need to be honest about your feelings." "My feelings are complicated, she said, using a word I'd taught her to describe emotions that were more than one thing at once. "I love Mommy because she's my mommy. But I don't like her because she lied and went to jail and made us have no home. And I'm scared of her." "Why are you scared?" "Because what if she makes you and Grandma Maria go away? What if she tricks the judge like she tried to trick you?" "That won't happen, I promise." "You can't promise that. You're not the boss of judges." She was right, of course. I couldn't promise that the system wouldn't fail these children the way their parents had, but I could promise to fight it every step of the way. The psychologist met with Emma 3 times before making her recommendation. Emma later told me she'd been completely honest, explaining that seeing her mother would make her feel unsafe and confused. Ryan, too young to articulate his feelings, clearly had simply said, "No, Mommy," when asked if he wanted to visit her. The judge ultimately ruled that visitation would not be in the children's best interest at this time, but left the door open for reconsideration in a year. Caitlin's lawyer protested, but the judge held firm. Ms. Patterson chose crime over her children. They've chosen stability over disruption. For now, the court sides with the children. April brought unexpected joy in the form of a call from Grace. She was retiring, planning to travel, and wanted to know if I'd be interested in buying the bookstore. "Roy, you're there every week anyway. The children love it. You've got the money. Why not?" "I'm 73 years old, Grace. Who starts a business at 73? Someone with 2 young children who need a legacy that isn't built on betrayal and bitterness. Think about it." I did think about it. I talked to Maria, who lit up at the idea. I talked to Marcus, who ran the numbers and confirmed it was financially viable. I even talked to Emma, who immediately started planning reading programs for kids and story times for toddlers. "We could have a special section just for books about dinosaurs," she said, glancing at Ryan, "and books about kids whose parents made bad choices, but they turned out okay anyway." That's a very specific section. It's important. Kids need to know they're not alone. By month's end, I'd bought the bookstore. Grace trained us for 2 weeks, then handed over the keys with tears in her eyes. "Take care of her, Roy. She's been my baby for 20 years. "We will. You take care of yourself. Send postcards." Our first day as bookstore owners was chaos. Ryan knocked over a display of paperbacks. Emma tried to reorganize the entire children's section more logically. Maria discovered the previous manager had been embezzling, leaving the accounts in shambles. But somehow we survived, and by closing time, we'd sold 17 books and gained 3 new regular customers. "We did it," Maria said, collapsing into a chair. "We actually did it." "It's just day 1, I reminded her. "Of the rest of our lives," she countered. May brought Mother's Day, a complicated holiday in our household. Emma made cards at school, but didn't know what to do with the one meant for mothers. "Should I send it to Mommy in jail, she asked. "Do you want to?" "Not really. Can I give it to Grandma Maria instead?" "I think she'd love that." The card read, "To Grandma Maria, who is like a mom, but better because you chose us and stay with us. Love, Emma." Maria cried when she read it. The good kind of tears that meant healing was happening. That same week, I got a call from Cheryl Matthews, the nurse from Sunshine Gardens, who testified about Caitlin's visit. "Mr. Anderson, I thought you should know. That place got shut down. State inspectors found massive violations. Elder abuse, neglect, financial fraud. Your daughter would have been sending you to a nightmare. What happened to the residents? Relocated to better facilities or back with families. It's been all over the news here. I looked it up online, reading the horrific details of what had been happening at Sunshine Gardens. Residents left in soiled clothes for days. Medications withheld to save money. Family members barred from visiting without notice. This was where my daughter had planned to warehouse me. "Grandpa, you look sad," Ryan observed, climbing into my lap. "Need hug?" "Yes, buddy, I need a hug." He wrapped his little arms around my neck, squeezing with all his 3-year-old might. Better. Much better. June marked 6 months with the bookstore, and we'd found our rhythm. Maria handled the business side while I worked with customers. Emma had started a kids' book club that met Saturday mornings very seriously discussing picture books with other 5- and 6-year-olds. Ryan had claimed a corner as his dinosaur cave, where he played while we worked, occasionally roaring at customers who always played along. One afternoon, a familiar face walked in. Patricia Brennan, the realtor, who'd been part of Caitlin's scheme. She looked older, tired, defeated. "Mr. Anderson," she said stiffly, "I heard you bought this place." "Ms. Brennan, can I help you find a book?" I came to apologize. What your daughter did, what I almost helped her do, it was wrong. I've been thinking about it for almost 2 years now. I have parents too, and if my children ever... She trailed off, unable to finish. "Apology accepted," I said, meaning it. Holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting others to die from it. "Would you like some recommendations?" "We have an excellent section on family relationships." She laughed a broken sound. "My son just told me he's putting me in a home. Says the house is too big for me alone. Karma, I suppose. Or an opportunity to have an honest conversation about what you both really need." I sold her 3 books on aging and family dynamics, and she left looking thoughtful. Emma watched from behind the counter. "Why were you nice to her?" "She was mean before." "Because being mean back doesn't fix anything, just makes more meanness." "Mommy would have been mean back." "Probably. But you don't have to be like Mommy." "I know. I'm going to be like you and Grandma Maria and Grandmother Ellen in the pictures." July brought summer reading programs at the store. Kids sprawled everywhere, reading for prizes we couldn't really afford, but provided anyway. The store was barely profitable, but it was profitable in ways that didn't show up in ledgers. Emma had friends now, real friends, who came for her book club and stayed for playdates. Ryan was chattering nonstop, his vocabulary expanding daily from all the books Maria read to him. One evening, as we were closing up, a young woman came in frantic. "Please, I know you're closing, but I need a book for my father. He's in hospice, and he keeps asking for some poem about not going gentle into the night. It's the only thing he wants." I found her a collection of Dylan Thomas Refused Her Money and sent her off with a hug from Emma, who sensed the woman's distress. "Why didn't you make her pay?" Emma asked. "Because sometimes being kind is more important than making money." "Is that why we're not rich anymore?" "We're rich in different ways now." "Rich in love." "Rich in love." August surprised us all when Tom called with news that he was moving to Denver. "Florida's too hot, and I miss having family, real family, not the kind you see once a year at funerals. I want to be part of the kids' lives, part of your life." "Tom, you don't have to." "I want to, Roy. I've wasted enough years being a stranger. Don't make me waste the ones we've got left." He bought a condo 10 minutes away, threw himself into great-uncle duties with enthusiasm that surprised everyone, including himself. He'd show up at the bookstore to read to kids during story time, his gruff voice somehow perfect for pirate stories and adventures. September brought Emma's first day of first grade and a letter from Caitlin that I almost didn't open. "Dad, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I graduate from the rehabilitation program next month. It's a real program, not just checking boxes. I've been sober for 18 months. I know that doesn't erase what I did, but I wanted you to know I'm trying. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. I just wanted to say that you were right to take them. You were right to sell the house. You were right about everything. I wasn't ready to be a mother. I'm still not. But maybe someday when they're older, if they want to know me, you'll tell them I finally tried to get better, even if it was too late. Caitlin." I filed it with the others' evidence of change that might or might not be real. Time would tell.
Time always did. October came with Halloween costumes again, Emma insisting on being a paleontologist this year because scientists were too general. Ryan wanted to be a T-Rex, but a nice T-Rex who doesn't eat people, just vegetables and maybe cookies.
We took them trick-or-treating in the old neighborhood, stopping by the house I'd built. James Liu had gone all out with decorations, the place looking magical in the evening darkness. "Mr. Anderson," he called out, recognizing us. "Kids, come see the haunted basement." It was strange being in that house, seeing how they'd changed it, made it theirs. But it was good, too, seeing it full of life and laughter instead of grief and plotting. "Your grandpa built this house," James told Emma and Ryan, "with his own hands, every wall, every floor." "Grandpa Roy is very talented," Emma said matter-of-factly. "He builds things and fixes things and reads stories with voices." "That's a good grandpa to have," James agreed. Walking home, Ryan's bag of candy dragging on the ground, Emma said, "I'm glad we don't live in that house." "Why?" "Because then we wouldn't have the bookstore or our apartment or Grandma Maria living with us all the time. That house is nice, but it's not ours." "What's ours?" I asked. "Whatever we're together in," she said simply. November brought the holiday season to the bookstore. Maria went overboard with decorations, turning the place into a winter wonderland. We hosted readings of holiday classics, Emma very seriously narrating "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" to an audience of enchanted toddlers, while Ryan provided sound effects. During one quiet afternoon, an elderly man came in, moving slowly with a walker. "Are you Roy Anderson?" he asked. "I am. I lived at Sunshine Gardens before it shut down. Your daughter toured our facility asking about admission procedures. I overheard her talking about you, about how you were becoming a burden." My chest tightened. "I see. I wanted to thank you." "Thank me." "For fighting back, for not letting her put you there. My own son did it to me, told me it was temporary just until he sorted some things out. That was 3 years ago. If that place hadn't been shut down, I'd have died there forgotten. I'm sorry that happened to you." "Don't be sorry, be proud. You stood up for yourself. Most of us didn't or couldn't or didn't know how. You showed them that we're not just disposable." He bought a book of poetry, Yeats, and left me with a handshake that trembled but felt strong in all the ways that mattered. December arrived with news that Caitlin would be released on parole in 6 months. Her lawyer contacted me about establishing a reunification plan. "She doesn't want to disrupt the children's lives," he said, which was lawyer speak, for she knew she couldn't win custody. "But she'd like to eventually have some relationship with them when they're ready." "When they're ready could be never," I warned. "She understands that. She's changed, Mr. Anderson. Prison either breaks people or rebuilds them. Your daughter has been rebuilding. We'll see." That night I talked to Maria about it. As we lay in bed, the children finally asleep after 3 stories and 2 glasses of water each. "Do you think people can really change?" I asked. "I think they can learn to make different choices. Whether that's the same as changing, I don't know." What if she has changed? What if she really wants to be their mother now? Then she'll have to prove it day by day, choice by choice, just like we do. Christmas morning came with the kind of chaos only young children can create. Wrapping paper everywhere, Ryan trying to ride the tricycle, we'd gotten him straight into the Christmas tree, Emma carefully cataloging each gift in a notebook for thank you cards. Tom arrived early, as did James Liu and his family, whom we'd invited on a whim. The apartment was too small for so many people, but somehow that made it better. Everyone pressed together, sharing food and laughter. "This is nice," Emma announced to the room. "This is how families should be." "How's that?" Tom asked. "Loud and messy and together." That evening, after everyone had gone home and the children were asleep, surrounded by new toys, Maria and I stood on the balcony despite the cold, looking out at Denver's lights. "We did it," she said. "We made it through another year. The kids are thriving. So are we, Roy. So are we." She was right. At 74, when most men my age were slowing down, I was raising 2 young children, running a bookstore, managing a marriage, and somehow thriving in the chaos of it all. New Year's Eve found us at the bookstore hosting a family-friendly celebration that ended at 8 p.m. so everyone could get kids home to bed. Emma insisted on resolutions, writing hers carefully in her notebook. 1. Read 100 books. 2. Help Ryan learn to write his whole name. 3. Be nice even when people aren't nice back. 4. Learn why the sky is blue. 5. Don't forget that Grandpa Roy and Grandma Maria chose us. What about you, Grandpa? She asked. My resolution is to be here for every important moment, every school play, every lost tooth, every nightmare, and every celebration. That's a big promise. Worth making, though. As we walked home, Ryan asleep in my arms, Emma holding Maria's hand, snow starting to fall gently on the city. I thought about the journey that had brought us here. 2.5 years ago, I'd been prepared to fade away in that empty house, just another forgotten old man waiting to die. Caitlin's betrayal, painful as it was, had sparked something in me, a refusal to go gentle into that good night, as Dylan Thomas wrote. Instead of the nursing home she'd planned, I'd found a new life. Instead of isolation, I'd found community. Instead of being a burden, I'd become a guardian, a teacher, a grandfather, in truth, rather than just biology. The phone rang as we were getting the kids ready for bed. It was Caitlin's lawyer again. Mr. Anderson, I wanted to inform you that Caitlin has decided to relinquish her parental rights. I nearly dropped the phone. What? She says she wants the children to have stability, to have you and your wife as their legal parents without the threat of future custody battles. She's signing papers tomorrow. Why? I managed to ask. She said she finally understood what love really means, doing what's best for someone else, even when it costs you everything. After I hung up, I sat on Emma's bed watching her sleep. Mr. Bunny clutched tightly. Ryan was sprawled in his bed, one arm hanging off the side, his dinosaur collection standing guard. These children, hidden from me for years, abandoned by their parents, were about to become legally permanently ours. The family Caitlin had tried to destroy had reformed into something stronger, built on choice, rather than obligation love, rather than manipulation. I thought about calling Caitlin, thanking her for this one genuine act of maternal love. But what was there to say? She'd made her choices, I'd made mine. And now she was making one more, the first selfless one I'd seen from her in years. Instead, I wrote a letter I might send someday, or might not, Caitlin. The children are safe, loved, and happy. They're brilliant and kind and resilient in ways that astound me daily. They have friend stability and a future unlimited by their past. Your decision to relinquish rights is the first truly parental thing you've done for them. I don't forgive you for what you tried to do to me. Some things cut too deep for forgiveness. But I thank you for letting them go, for letting them grow, for letting them become the people they're meant to be without the shadow of custody battles and divided loyalties. They may want to know you someday, or they may not. That will be their choice to make. But know this, they are loved. Completely, unconditionally, permanently loved. Not because they're useful or convenient or profitable, but simply because they exist. The way parents are supposed to love their children, the way I loved you once before greed poisoned the well. Your father, January 2nd, brought the legal papers which Maria and I signed without hesitation. Emma and Ryan were officially ours, no longer grandchildren we were raising, but children who were ours to protect and guide into adulthood. That evening, Emma asked, "Does this mean you're my dad now, instead of my grandpa?" "I'm whatever you need me to be, sweetheart. The titles don't matter as much as the showing up." "Then you're my grandpa dad, and Maria is my grandma mom, and Ryan is still my annoying little brother." "Hey," Ryan protested. "Ryan, not annoying Ryan, awesome." "You're both awesome," Maria said, pulling them into a hug that I joined our strange little family, complete in its imperfection, as I tucked them in. That night, I realized the truth of it all. Caitlin had tried to steal my house, but instead she'd given me a home. She'd tried to take my money, but instead she'd given me purpose. She'd tried to end my story, but instead she'd given me a new chapter worth living. The burden she'd wanted to shed had become my greatest blessing. And in the end, that was the best revenge of all. Not anger or bitterness, or even the satisfaction of winning, but the simple, powerful act of living well despite her betrayal. The house I'd built with my hands was now filled with another family's laughter. But the home I'd built from ruins was filled with something better. The laughter of children who knew they were chosen, who knew they were loved, who knew that no matter what storms came, we would weather them together. The adoption papers felt heavier than they should have in my hands, as if they carried the weight of all the decisions that had led us here. Maria and I signed them on a Tuesday morning, while the kids were at school, making official what had already been true in our hearts for over a year. We were no longer temporary guardians or grandparents stepping in during a crisis. We were parents legally and permanently to 2 children who had already survived more than most adults. That afternoon, when I picked Emma up from school, she studied my face carefully as she climbed into the car. "Something's different," she announced. "You look happy nervous, not worried nervous." "How can you tell the difference?" "Your eyes crinkle different ways. So what happened?" "The adoption went through. You and Ryan are officially legally forever ours." She was quiet for a moment, processing this information in that careful way of hers. Then she said, "Does this mean Mommy can't take us back anymore? She signed papers saying she wanted us to be your parents. She can't change her mind now." "Good," Emma said firmly. "I was tired of worrying about it." I hadn't known she'd been worrying. Despite all our reassurances, she'd been carrying that fear silently, another burden no 7-year-old should have to bear. When we told Ryan that evening, his response was simpler. "Ryan, stay forever with Grandpa Dad and Grandma Mom." "Forever and ever," Maria confirmed. "Good. Ryan hungry. What's for dinner?" The resilience of children never ceased to amaze me. They could take earth-shattering news and file it away as simply another fact about their lives as long as dinner still happened and bedtime stories continued. February brought an unexpected visitor to the bookstore. A woman in her 40s, well-dressed but with tired eyes, approached the counter where I was sorting new arrivals. "Mr. Anderson, I'm Jennifer Marsh. I was Jeremy Patterson's sister." My body tensed. Jeremy died 3 weeks ago. Car accident in Nevada. He was drunk, hit a tree. No one else was hurt, thank God. I didn't know what to say. This man who had abandoned his children, who had plotted against me, who had been the catalyst for so much pain, was dead. "I'm sorry for your loss," I said, meaning it. Whatever Jeremy had been, he was still someone's brother. "Don't be. Jeremy was a user, a manipulator. He destroyed everything he touched." She paused, gathering herself. "I came because I thought you should know, and because I wanted to apologize. I knew what he was planning with your daughter. I knew, and I said nothing." "Why didn't you?" "Because I was relieved he was someone else's problem for once. Our family had dealt with his schemes and failures for years. When he married Caitlin, we all breathed easier, thinking maybe he'd finally grow up. Instead, he just found someone whose greed matched his own." She pulled out an envelope, worn and creased. "He left this, was carrying it when he died. I think he meant to send it, but never did." The letter inside was addressed to Emma and Ryan. I read it quickly, my jaw tightening with each word. Jeremy blamed everyone but himself, claimed the children had ruined his life, said they were better off without him because they were defective anyway. It was poison on paper, the final selfish act of a selfish man. "Thank you for bringing this," I said, pocketing the letter. "I'll make sure to handle it appropriately." "You mean you'll burn it?" "Immediately." She smiled sadly. "Those kids are lucky to have you. Jeremy never understood that children aren't possessions or burdens. They're people who need love more than anything else." After she left, I did exactly as promised, burning Jeremy's letter in the alley behind the store. Emma and Ryan would never know their biological father's final cruel words. Some truths weren't worth preserving. That evening, as we were closing the store, Emma asked, out of nowhere, "Is my daddy dead?" Maria and I exchanged glances. We'd agreed to always be honest with the children, but how much truth was too much? "Yes, sweetheart. He died in an accident." She absorbed this, then asked, "Are you sad?" "I'm sad for you and Ryan that you won't have the chance to know him if you wanted to someday." "I didn't want to know him. He left us. He called Ryan stupid. He made Mommy worse instead of better." She paused, then added, "But I'm sad he died anyway. Is that weird?" "No, that's called being human. We can be sad about things even when they involve people who hurt us." "Death is very permanent," she said solemnly. "Yes, it is. More permanent than adoption. Different kind of permanent." She thought about this as she helped me lock up. "I pick adoption permanent over death permanent." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too. March brought spring and Caitlin's release from prison. I'd been dreading this day for months despite her relinquishment of parental rights. She was out there now, somewhere in Denver, free to rebuild her life or destroy it again. The first sign of her presence came through Tom, who called me on a Wednesday evening, his voice tight with concern. "Roy, I just saw Caitlin. She's working at a grocery store on Colorado Boulevard stocking shelves. She saw me too, but didn't approach. She looks different. Different how? Older, tired, but clear-eyed. You know? Not like before when she always seemed to be calculating something. Did you talk to her? No. What would I say? But Roy, she's only 20 minutes away. The kids could run into her any time." That night I lay awake thinking about the inevitability of it all. Denver was big, but not big enough to guarantee we'd never cross paths. What would I do if we ran into her at the park? What would I say if Emma recognized her from old photos? The answer came from Maria, practical as always. "We tell the truth if it happens. Not the ugly details, but the truth. Their mother lives in Denver. She made mistakes. We're their parents now. Simple facts." But nothing about this was simple. This was the woman who'd given birth to these children and then abandoned them for a chance at money, who'd hidden them from me for years, who'd chosen crime over motherhood. Yet she was also the baby I'd raised, the child I'd loved unconditionally for decades before greed poisoned her heart. April arrived with Emma's school play where she played a scientist discovering a new dinosaur species. She'd written half the script herself, insisting on scientific accuracy that had frustrated her drama teacher but delighted me. "Grandpa Dad, you have to sit in the front row," she instructed, "and Grandma Mom has to record everything. And Uncle Tom has to not cry because it's embarrassing." "I don't cry," Tom protested. "You cried when I lost my first tooth." "That was different. That was a milestone." "Everything's a milestone to you," Emma said with the exasperation of someone far older than 7. The play was perfect in its imperfection. Kids forgetting lines and improvising wildly. Emma delivered her speeches about paleontology with complete seriousness while wearing a lab coat that dragged on the ground. Ryan shouted, "That's my sister," at random intervals until Maria gently convinced him that clapping was sufficient. Afterward, as we were celebrating at an ice cream shop, I noticed her before the kids did. Caitlin standing across the street watching us through the window. She looked exactly as Tom had described, older, worn down by consequences, but present in a way she'd never been before. Our eyes met. I saw her start to move toward the door, then stop herself. She raised one hand slightly, not quite a wave, more in acknowledgement. Then she turned and walked away. "Grandpa Dad, you're not eating your ice cream," Emma observed. "It's melting." "Sorry, sweetheart, just thinking." "About what?" "About how lucky we are to be here together." "That's not luck," Emma corrected. "That's choices. You chose us, we chose you, and we all chose ice cream. Luck is random. Family is on purpose." 7 years old and already wiser than most adults. May brought Mother's Day again this time with less uncertainty. Emma and Ryan had made elaborate cards at school presenting them to Maria, with the ceremony usually reserved for royal proclamations. "This is for being our Grandma Mom," Emma read from her card. "Thank you for reading stories with voices and making pancakes in shapes and never forgetting to pick us up even when the bookstore is busy." Ryan's contribution was simpler but no less heartfelt. "I love Grandma Mom. She is nice and smells like cookies." From Ryan. He'd drawn what might have been a dinosaur or possibly a horse wearing a hat. That afternoon, while the kids napped, Maria found me in the bookstore's back office, staring at a letter I'd been hiding for a week. "What's that?" she asked. "Caitlin wrote to me. Through her parole officer. She's asking for just one thing, a photo of the kids. Not to contact them, not to see them, just one recent photo to know they're okay." Maria sat down beside me. "What do you want to do?" Part of me wants to deny her even that. She had years to care about their well-being and chose not to. But another part remembers raising her. "Yeah. Send it," Maria said after a moment. "One photo. No information about where we live now, no details about their lives, just a photo that shows they're healthy and happy. It costs us nothing and might give her the closure she needs to stay away." I chose a photo from Emma's birthday, both kids laughing at something off camera, their faces bright with joy. I sent it through the parole officer with no note, no message, just the image of two children who were thriving despite their origins. June came with the end of the school year and the challenge of keeping two energetic kids occupied for the summer. We enrolled them in day camps, took turns managing the bookstore, and discovered that running a business with children constantly underfoot was its own special kind of chaos. Grandpa, Dad, why can't we put all the books with blue covers together? Ryan asked one afternoon, having decided to reorganize our entire fiction section by color. Because people look for books by author names or titles, not colors. That's silly. Blue books should be with blue books. The world doesn't always make sense, buddy. Then we should fix it. Start with putting those books back where you found them. That's not fixing it. That's unfixing it. The logic of 4-year-olds was unassailable and completely impractical, a combination that perfectly described our entire life. July brought unexpected news through Marcus, who'd heard through legal channels that Caitlin had gotten married. A quick courthouse wedding to someone she'd met in her recovery program, a man named David, who had his own complicated past and 2 children from a previous marriage. She's a stepmother now, Marcus said carefully, watching my reaction. The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who'd abandoned her own children was now raising someone else's. I wanted to be angry, but mostly I felt tired. Every piece of news about Caitlin was another reminder of the life running parallel to ours, the ghost of what could have been. "Are you okay?" Maria asked that night. "She's moved on, built a new family. Meanwhile, we're raising the children she left behind." "No," Maria corrected firmly. "We're raising our children. Emma and Ryan aren't leftovers or abandoned goods. They're ours fully and completely. What Caitlin does or doesn't do with her life has nothing to do with us anymore." She was right, of course, but it still stung knowing Caitlin was out there playing house with strangers' children while her own grew up calling someone else mom. August was back to school shopping again. Emma starting 2nd grade with a list of required supplies that seemed excessive for someone who could barely reach the top shelf of her locker. "I need mechanical pencils," she announced. "Regular pencils are for babies." "Last year you said mechanical pencils were too complicated." "That was last year. I'm more mature now." Clearly. Ryan starting preschool had simpler needs. Dinosaur backpack, dinosaur lunchbox, dinosaur everything. What if they don't have dinosaur everything? Then dragons. Dragons are like dinosaurs but with wings. That's actually pterodactyls. "No, Grandpa, Dad. Pterodactyls aren't dragons. They're flying reptiles from the Mesozoic era. Very different." Schooled in paleontology by a 4-year-old, Ellen would have loved this. The first day of school came with the usual mix of excitement and anxiety. Emma marched into her classroom like she owned it, while Ryan clung to my leg at preschool drop-off. "What if nobody likes me?" he whispered. "Impossible. You're extremely likable." "What if I miss you?" "Then you remember, I'll be there at 12:30 to pick you up, and you'll be having so much fun you won't even notice I'm gone. Promise. Promise." He let go reluctantly, took 3 steps toward his teacher, then ran back for another hug. "Okay, now I'm ready." And he was. Within minutes, he was showing another boy his dinosaur backpack, explaining the difference between a T-Rex and an Allosaurus with the authority of someone who'd been reading dinosaur books since before he could properly pronounce their names. September brought a surprise visit from Dorothy's lawyer. Ellen's mother had apparently left one final bequest. We hadn't known about a trust fund for her great-grandchildren, the ones she'd never met but had somehow known would exist. "She amended her will 6 months before she died," the lawyer explained. "She said she had a feeling you'd end up raising more children, that it was in your nature to care for those who needed it." The amount wasn't huge, but it would cover college for both kids, something I'd been worrying about given my age and the uncertainty of how long I'd be around to provide for them. "How did she know?" Maria asked after the lawyer left. "Ellen must have told her something, or maybe she just knew me well enough to guess that I couldn't turn away children in need, especially my own grandchildren." That night I talked to Ellen's photo, a habit I'd never quite broken. "Your mother looked out for them even though she never met them. Just like you looked out for me even when you were gone. The women in your family always were smarter than me." October came with Halloween costumes that had been planned since approximately July. Emma wanted to be Marie Curie, which required extensive explanation to other parents who expected princesses or witches. Ryan was a paleontologist, complete with tiny field vest and plastic fossil tools. We're a science family, Emma explained to anyone who asked. Because science is real and magic is just stuff we don't understand yet. We were setting up for the bookstore's Halloween party when she walked in, Caitlin holding the hand of a boy about Ryan's age, presumably one of her new stepchildren. She froze when she saw us, clearly not having expected to find us here. Emma looked up from arranging candy, saw her mother, and went very still. She remembered. Of course she remembered. "Hello," Caitlin said softly. "Hello," Emma replied, her voice cautious but not afraid. Ryan, oblivious to the tension, waved cheerfully. "Hi, I like your costume." The boy was dressed as a superhero. "Thanks," the boy replied shyly. "I like your fossils." Caitlin's eyes moved between her biological children and her stepson, and I saw the moment she truly understood what she'd lost. Emma's careful distance, Ryan's complete lack of recognition. These were her children, but they weren't her children anymore. "We should go," she said to the boy. "Other stores to visit. But they have candy." "Other stores, Jamie, now." She turned to leave, then looked back at me. "They look happy." "They are." "Good. That's good." And then she was gone, leaving behind only the ghost of what might have been and the reality of what was. "Who was that?" Ryan asked. "Someone we used to know," Emma said before I could answer. "But not anymore." November brought the holidays and the complicated dance of family dynamics. Tom had invited us to his place for Thanksgiving, insisting it was his turn to host. "I bought a turkey," he announced proudly. "A big one." "Do you know how to cook a turkey?" Maria asked skeptically. "How hard can it be? You put it in the oven and wait." "Tom, there's a bit more to it than that." "Fine, I'll YouTube it. Kids these days learn everything from the internet." "You're 70 years old." Young at heart. The dinner was actually wonderful, partly because Maria and I secretly helped with most of the cooking, while Tom entertained the kids with stories from our childhood that I'd forgotten and possibly he'd invented. "Did Grandpa Dad really build a rocket when he was 10? Emma asked, fascinated. "More like a bottle with some fizzy tablets that shot about 3 feet in the air," I corrected. "But he told everyone it was going to the moon," Tom added, grinning. "Charged the neighbor kids a nickel each to watch the launch." "What happened?" "It exploded. Got grounded for a month and had to return everyone's nickels." "That's called fraud," Emma said seriously. "You shouldn't charge money for things that don't work." "Tell that to most politicians," Tom muttered, earning a laugh from Maria and a confused look from the kids. December came with snow and excitement about Christmas. The bookstore was busier than ever, people seeking gifts and escape from holiday stress. Emma had started helping customers, her recommendations eerily accurate for someone who'd been reading seriously for less than 3 years. "You want something for your mom who likes mysteries but not too scary," she'd say to customers. "Try this one. It has murder but no blood, and the detective has a nice cat." One snowy evening as we were closing up, a familiar figure appeared at the door. Cheryl Matthews, the nurse from Sunshine Gardens, who'd testified about Caitlin's visit years ago. "Mr. Anderson, I'm so glad I found you. I heard you bought this place." "Cheryl, come in. How are you?" "Better. I'm working at Denver General now, pediatric ward, but I came because I wanted you to know something. I saw your daughter Caitlin at the hospital last month. She was volunteering in the children's wing, reading to kids whose parents couldn't be there." I didn't know what to say to that. "She's good at it," Cheryl continued. "Patient kind. The kids love her. I don't know what happened to change her, but she seems different. Thought you should know." After she left, Emma asked, "Were you talking about Mommy?" "Yes." "Is she being good now?" "It sounds like she's trying to be." "That's nice, I guess. But it doesn't change what she did before." "No, it doesn't. But maybe it means she won't do bad things to other people." "Maybe." Emma considered this. "People are complicated. Very complicated. That's why books are better sometimes. In books, you know who the bad guys are." Christmas morning came with its usual chaos, but this year felt different, more settled. We were no longer playing at being a family. We simply were one. Ryan had stopped asking if we'd always be together. Emma had stopped watching the door like someone might take her away. We spent the morning at home, then went to the bookstore, which we'd opened for a few hours for people who needed escape from family gatherings or who had no family to gather with. Grace, our predecessor, had started the tradition, and we'd continued it. "Why do we open on Christmas, Yus?" Ryan asked, wearing his new dinosaur sweater proudly. "Because sometimes people need books more than anything else," I explained. "Books can be friends when you're lonely, adventure when you're stuck, hope when you're sad." "Books are magic," he declared. "I thought we didn't believe in magic," Emma reminded him. "Just science we don't understand yet." "Books are science magic," Ryan decided. "The best kind." That evening, after the kids were asleep, Maria and I sat by our small tree, watching the lights twinkle. The apartment was quiet except for the gentle sound of Ryan snoring and the occasional mumble from Emma, who talked in her sleep. "We made it through another year," Maria said. "The kids are doing amazing." "So are we, Roy. When I married my first husband 40 years ago, I never imagined I'd be raising young children in my 70s. But I can't imagine any other life now." "You saved us," I said. After Ellen died after Caitlin's betrayal, I was ready to disappear. Then the kids came and you came, and suddenly I had reasons to stay. We saved each other. That's what families do. January arrived with resolutions and report cards. Emma's teacher wrote, "Emma continues to exceed expectations in all areas. Her empathy for other students and her intellectual curiosity make her a joy to teach. She's wise beyond her years, but still maintains the wonder of childhood." Ryan's preschool report was simpler. Ryan knows more about dinosaurs than most adults. He's kind to others and shares well, still working on not roaring during quiet time. "These are good reports, but," I told them over dinner. "Of course they are," Emma said. "We're excellent children. Modest, too." "What's modest?" Ryan asked. "It means not bragging about how awesome you are," Emma explained. "Oh. Ryan not modest, Ryan very awesome, and everyone should know." February brought Valentine's Day and complicated feelings about love and family. Emma's class was making cards, and she'd been unusually quiet about it. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" I asked while helping her with homework. "We're supposed to make cards for our parents, but I have you and Grandma Mom, and then there's Mommy, who isn't here but is still my mom and daddy, who died, and it's all confusing." "You can make cards for whoever you want. There's no rule about how many parents or what kind of parents. But can I make one for Mommy even though she's not here?" "If you want to." "I don't want to give it to her. I just want to make it." "Is that weird?" "Not at all. Sometimes we do things for ourselves, not for other people." She made 4 cards that year. One for Maria, one for me, one for Tom, who'd become more grandfather than great-uncle, and one for Caitlin that she put in her memory box along with the photo she'd found months ago and other complicated treasures. March brought spring and a phone call I'd been both expecting and dreading. Caitlin's parole officer informing me that she'd successfully completed her program and was no longer under supervision. "She asked me to tell you she's doing well," he said. "She's maintained employment, stayed clean, and hasn't had any legal troubles. She also wanted you to know she's respecting the boundaries, won't try to contact the children unless they want contact when they're older. Thank you for letting me know." Mr. Anderson. I've been doing this job for 15 years. Most people don't change, they just get better at hiding who they are. But occasionally, rarely, someone actually does the work. Your daughter might be one of those rare ones. That night I found Emma reading in her room, surrounded by books as usual. "Grandpa, Dad, can people change, like really change, not just pretend?" It was like she'd been listening to my thoughts. I think people can learn to make better choices. Whether that's the same as changing, I don't know. In books, bad guys sometimes become good guys. But in real life, it's harder to tell. Much harder. "Maybe that's okay," she said finally. "Maybe not everything needs a happy ending. Maybe some endings are just endings." April brought standardized testing at Emma's school, an anxiety I hadn't expected from an 8-year-old. "What if I don't do well?" she fretted. "What if I'm not as smart as everyone thinks? Then you're still Emma, and we still love you exactly the same." "But I'm supposed to be the smart one. Ryan's the funny dinosaur one, and I'm the smart, serious one." "You're both allowed to be more than one thing. You can be smart and funny and serious and silly. Ryan can love dinosaurs and also be brilliant. People aren't just one thing. Mommy was just one thing. She was just greedy. No, sweetheart. She was greedy, but she was also other things. She was scared and confused and probably loved you in her own broken way. It wasn't enough. It wasn't what you deserved, but people are always more complicated than just one thing. Emma did fine on her tests, of course, but more importantly, she started letting herself be sillier, laughing, more playing, and not just studying. May came with Mother's Day again easier each year as the new normal became simply normal. Ryan made Maria a crown out of construction paper and insisted she wear it all day, even to the bookstore. Grandma Mom is the queen of everything, he announced to customers. That's quite a title, one regular said, smiling. She earned it, Ryan said seriously. She reads all the voices and makes good snacks and never forgets anyone. June brought the end of another school year and plans for summer. We decided to take a real vacation, our first as a family, to Yellowstone. The kids had never been to a national park, and I wanted them to see the country beyond Denver's city limits. Will there be bears? Ryan asked excitedly. Probably, but we'll see them from far away. Will there be books? Emma asked. We'll bring books. Then I'm ready. The trip was everything we'd hoped, wonder and whining beauty and bickering memories being made even as they happened. Watching Old Faithful erupt, Emma grabbed my hand and said, "This is the best thing ever." Ryan agreed by roaring at the geyser, apparently trying to communicate with it. We were driving back through Wyoming when we stopped at a rest area. Another family was there, kids about the same ages as ours, and the mothers started chatting as mothers do. How long have you been married? The woman asked Maria. 3 years, Maria replied, but we've been raising these two together almost that long. They're beautiful. They have your husband's eyes. Thank you, Maria said simply, not correcting her, not explaining that biology had nothing to do with why Emma's eyes looked thoughtful like mine, or why Ryan's smile matched my own crooked grin. We'd become mirrors of each other, not through genetics, but through proximity, through love, through the daily act of being family. July marked 3 years since I'd sold the house, 3 years since I'd chosen myself over my daughter's greed. I drove by the old place just to see. The Liu family had added a garden, expanded the deck, made it even more beautiful than Ellen and I had managed. James Liu was outside with his daughters, now taller, more confident. He waved when he saw me. Mr. Anderson. How are the grandkids? They're not grandkids anymore, I said. We adopted them. They're ours now. That's wonderful. Hey, we're having a barbecue next week. You should all come. The girls would love to see Emma and Ryan again. I accepted, knowing it would be strange being in that backyard as a guest, but also knowing that moving forward sometimes meant revisiting the past without being trapped by it. The barbecue was lovely. Emma and the Liu girls immediately disappeared into the treehouse I'd built decades ago, now reinforced and painted bright blue. Ryan found a group of younger kids to educate about dinosaurs. Maria chatted with Mrs. Liu about books and teaching. I stood in the yard where Ellen and I had celebrated anniversaries and birthdays, where Caitlin had learned to walk, where so much life had happened. But instead of sadness, I felt gratitude. This house had been loved by us, and now it was loved by others. That's all any of us could hope for, to love, and be loved to leave places better than we found them. You did good, Roy, Tom said, appearing beside me with a beer. Selling this place, taking the kids starting over. Ellen would be proud. I hope so. I know so. You took the worst thing that ever happened to you and turned it into the best thing. That's not luck or accident, that's choice. August came too quickly with back-to-school shopping and the realization that summer was ending. Emma would be starting 3rd grade Ryan kindergarten, real school with full days and homework and all the challenges that came with growing up. I don't want summer to end, Ryan complained, sprawled dramatically on the bookstore floor. Neither do I, buddy, but that's how time works. Time should have a pause button. Then we'd never get to the good parts that come next. What if the next parts aren't good? Then we make them good. That's our job. September arrived with its familiar rhythms, school drop-offs, bookstore duties, homework, battles, bedtime stories. But this September brought something unexpected, a letter from Caitlin forwarded through Marcus's office. Dad, I'm writing this knowing you might not read it, and that's okay. I just needed to say some things, even if they go unheard. I see Emma and Ryan sometimes from a distance, not stalking, just coincidental encounters in a city that's both too big and too small. They're beautiful, happy, thriving. Everything I couldn't give them. Thank you for that. I'm in therapy twice a week now. Real therapy where I have to face what I did, who I was, who I'm trying to become. My therapist says I have to forgive myself to move forward, but I don't think I should. Some things shouldn't be forgiven, just learned from. I love my stepchildren, but every bedtime story, every scraped knee I tend, every lunch I pack reminds me of the children I abandoned. That's my punishment and my teacher. I hope someday Emma and Ryan can have good lives without the shadow of what Jeremy and I did to them. I hope they know they were never the problem. We were. I was. I don't ask for forgiveness. I don't ask for anything. I just wanted you to know that I know what I lost, and I know what you saved. Caitlin. I saved the letter with the others evidence of something: change, regret, growth, manipulation. Time would tell. Time always did. October brought Halloween again. Emma, now too sophisticated for princess costumes, insisting on being Katherine Johnson, the NASA mathematician. Nobody will know who I am, she said cheerfully, but that's okay. I'll educate them. Ryan was a velociraptor, which required extensive explanation about how they were smarter than T-Rexes and hunted in packs and were basically the perfect dinosaur. You two are the nerdiest trick-or-treaters ever, Tom said, designated candy giver outer at the bookstore while we took the kids around the neighborhood. Thank you, Emma said, taking it as the compliment Tom intended. November came with Thanksgiving and the weight of gratitude that felt heavier each year. Not burdensome heavy, but substantial, like holding something precious that you know could break if you're not careful. We hosted dinner in our small apartment, inviting everyone who'd become family through choice rather than blood. Grace back from her travels, Marcus and his wife, the Liu family, even. Cheryl Matthews. The apartment was too small for so many people, but that made it perfect. Everyone pressed together, passing dishes over heads, children weaving between legs. What are you thankful for? Maria asked the kids the traditional question that usually yielded silly answers. Books and dinosaurs and Grandpa Dad's pancakes, Ryan said predictably. Emma was quiet for a moment, then said, I'm thankful for second chances. Not everybody gets them, but we did. The room went quiet. Adults exchanging glances over children's heads, understanding the weight of what this 8-year-old had said. To second chances. Tom raised his glass and everyone echoed the toast, even the kids with their apple juice. As December approached with its familiar mixture of joy and chaos, I found myself in the bookstore one evening after closing doing inventory while Maria took the kids to see a movie. The door chimed, which was strange since I'd locked it. Caitlin stood in the doorway, snow in her hair, looking uncertain. The door was open, she said. I must have forgotten to lock it. We stood there, father and daughter, 3 years and lifetimes since that phone call that changed everything. I'm not here to cause trouble, she said quickly. I wanted to give you this. She handed me an envelope thick with cash. What is this, a partial repayment for what I tried to steal? I know it doesn't fix anything, but I've been saving everything I could. There's $3,000 there. I'll send more when I can. I don't want your money, Caitlin. I know, but I need to give it. Please, let me do this one thing right. I took the envelope, knowing I'd put it in trust for the kids' future, knowing this was about her redemption more than my restitution. They're happy, I said. Emma and Ryan, they're happy and safe and loved. I know, I've seen them, not up close, just glimpses. Emma looks like Mom when she's concentrating. Ryan has your laugh. He does, the exact same laugh, throws his whole head back. We stood in silence, two people who'd once been everything to each other. Now strangers connected only by the children we both loved in very different ways. I should go, she said. Caitlin, are you happy? She considered the question. I'm working on deserving to be happy. Maybe someday. She left and I locked the door behind her properly this time. When Maria and the kids got home excited about the movie and covered in popcorn butter, I didn't mention the visit. Some stories aren't meant to be shared immediately, if ever. Christmas came with its usual magic, the kids old enough now to participate in the giving as much as the receiving. Emma had saved her allowance to buy everyone books she'd personally selected. Ryan had made everyone dinosaur drawings with elaborate scientific names he'd invented. "This is a grandpodactyl," he explained, showing me my portrait as a flying reptile with glasses. Very wise flies children to school eats mostly coffee and sandwiches. Remarkably accurate. On New Year's Eve, we let the kids stay up until midnight for the first time. Emma made it easily, but Ryan fell asleep at 11:45, waking only when we cheered at midnight. "Did I miss it?" he asked groggily. "No, buddy. Perfect timing." "Good. Ryan doesn't like missing important stuff." As the clock reset and another year began, I looked at my strange, beautiful family. Maria reading to Ryan. Emma writing in her journal. Tom dozed off in the chair he claimed wasn't comfortable but never left, and felt something I hadn't felt since before Ellen got sick complete. Not perfect, because perfection was a myth. Not without challenges, because raising children in your 70s was insane by any measure. But complete in the way that mattered, like a puzzle, with all its pieces finally in place, even if the picture wasn't what you'd expected when you opened the box. The burden Caitlin had tried to shed had become my life's greatest gift. The revenge I'd thought I wanted had transformed into something better. A life lived fully with purpose, with love that multiplied rather than divided. 3.5 years ago, I'd thought my story was ending. Instead, it had just been changing chapters. And this chapter, the one with dinosaur roars and bedtime stories and homework battles and bookstore chaos, was worth every betrayal that had led to it.